Chapter 1051. The free cities were famous because the auction was held in this main city. The surrounding industries of the free cities also served the rich, so at the same time, it was also a place where mercenary groups gathered. Along the way, there were groups of players standing by the roadside, waiting for business. Moreover, none of them seemed to be of low levels. Seeing unfamiliar faces like Wang Yu and Wu Ji, the players greeted them from afar. "Boss, do you need bodyguards? We are very cheap." Of course, these guys were only fooling the rich young masters. With Wang Yu's ability, he did not need these people as bodyguards. The two of them turned a deaf ear to them and walked all the way to the auction. The auction was held in a building that looked like a church opposite the Castellan's mansion. The guards at the entrance were two players. Their IDs were displayed above their heads. One was called Murky, and the other was called Tyrannical Bobbin. From this, it could be seen that the organizer of the auction was a player, and a very rich one at that. After all, Wang Yu's remote and rundown shop was already worth a lot of money, not to mention this huge building that was comparable to a church in a prime location. "I'm sorry, but the auction will only start tomorrow." Wang Yu and Tyrannical Bobbin walked to the entrance and were about to enter when Murky and Tyrannical Bobbin reached out to stop Wang Yu and Wu Ji. As expected of the security guards in the high-end service area, the two of them were much more polite than the cold guards. It was just that their tone was a little distant. "Ha!" Wu Ji laughed. "We're not here to buy things. We're here to sell things." Murky looked Wu Ji up and down. Seeing that Wu Ji was well-equipped, he said, "I'm sorry, but please report your ID." Auctions like theirs were private to players, and without the support of the system guards, they were relatively less safe. Of course, they couldn't just let strangers in. Otherwise, if a robber or something happened, they would cry themselves to death. After all, anything auctioned here was not cheap. The IDs above the heads of the two guards were also to verify the identity of the visitors. Wu Ji was a veteran player, so he naturally understood this principle. He smiled faintly and said, "Chuanjin Wu Ji." As he spoke, Wu Ji sent a friend request over to verify his identity. However, when the two guards saw Wu Ji's ID, their expressions changed. They frowned and said, "You're the sect master of Chuanjin, Wu Ji?" At the same time, the two of them sent a message in the guild channel. "Everyone be careful. Chuanjin's players are here." Chuanjin had always had a bad reputation. Wherever it went, it was known for doing all kinds of evil. How could it be good for such a person to come here? What's more, this person was a bandit leader from Chuanjin. Even if the two guards were not afraid of the two of them because they had the advantage in numbers, they still had to be careful. Robbery was something that Chuanjin often did, so they were very familiar with it. "It's me." Wu Ji nodded and said, "Can I go in now?" The guard hurriedly said, "Please wait a little longer. Our boss hasn't replied yet." TSK. Look at your reputation. Wang Yu could not help but marvel at the guard's behavior after hearing Wu Ji's name. Although Wang Yu also knew that Chuanjin's reputation was not good, he did not expect it to be this bad. He even had to be on guard when he came to the auction to sell things. At this time, the guard also noticed Wang Yu and asked professionally, "Who is this?" "He is Ironox." Wu Ji pointed at Wang Yu and introduced faintly. In the end, he turned his head and said to Wang Yu, "Send a friend request to verify it." Hula. As soon as Wu Ji's voice fell, the two guards reflexively took a step back, and the expression on their faces turned into one of horror. "You are Ironox?" Wang Yu was still laughing at Chuanjin's reputation. Little did he know that as the rising star of Chuanjin, Wang Yu could be said to be fierce and had long overshadowed the limelight of everyone in Chuanjin. In front of Wang Yu, a bandit leader like Wu Ji was just to make up the numbers. "Haha, look at your reputation." Wu Ji sneered back. Seeing the two of them like this, Wang Yu was speechless and said helplessly, "It's me." As he spoke, Wang Yu also sent a friend request. Murky carefully looked at Wang Yu's ID a few times and carefully passed the verification. Then, he sent both of their IDs to the boss. Very soon, Murky received a message from a boss. "Let them in." Murky and his brother did not know why the boss would let two dangerous people in, but the boss was the boss, so Murky and his brother had to give way and said, "Two bosses, Please come in. What a hypocritical thing. It's as if it's real, Wang Yu muttered and walked in. Oomph. Wu Ji also smiled faintly and followed closely behind. This auction house looked like a church from the outside, but unexpectedly, it really was a church. It was only a little smaller than the resurrection point. With such extravagance, the boss of this auction house was really rich. Bypassing the main hall, Wang Yu and his brother came to the temple at the back. At this moment, a fat middle-aged man swaggered out to welcome them. He said with great enthusiasm, "Two experts have come to visit. Old Gio, please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." So this fat man was called Old Gio. Bah! When Wang Yu and Wu Ji heard Old Gio's words, they both spat in their hearts and turned their faces to the side. Meow, I've been standing outside for a long time. If you wanted to welcome me from afar, you would have done so long ago. What's the use of pretending here? After all, Old Gio was a businessman and knew the principle of welcoming guests with a smiling face. Seeing that Wang Yu and his brother did not fall for his trick, Old Gio smiled and said, "I can't help it. Our line of work is more risky. Please forgive me for neglecting you." Old Gio was speaking the truth. His auction house was a business for the rich, who were richer than banks. There was not even a single system guard in this kind of place, so it was necessary to be careful. Wu Ji didn't waste any time with Old Gio. He went straight to the point and said, "All right, we're here to auction something today, not to chat with you. You can give me an estimate." "Oh," Old Gio smiled and said, "I wonder what good stuff the two experts have that you'd like to show me." Wang Yu smiled faintly and said, "Just a little something." As he said that, Wang Yu took out the dragon scales, dragon meat, dragon bones, and other materials that he had obtained from Long Outyin. Old Gio was in the business of the rich, so his knowledge was extraordinary. His vision was also much higher than the average player's. Chapter 1052. Without waiting for Wang Yu and Wu Ji to speak, Gio continued, "But the two of you, although our auction business isn't big, we are still knowledgeable. These items are rare, but they're only ordinary here. The price might not be as high as you think." Wu Ji wasn't surprised by Gio's words at all. The live auction was a place where the wealthiest players in the game supported. Of course, it wasn't the kind of small shop that would make a fuss over rare items. Not to mention these rare materials, even dark gold equipment and rare skills were all ordinary goods here. It was said that a rich second-generation heir had bought a divine relic here not long ago. Even if it wasn't a complete divine relic, it was enough to prove that Gio wasn't the kind of person who hadn't seen good things before. Hearing Gio's words, Wu Ji chuckled and said, "We at Chuanjin have also heard of your famous auction. Of course, we wouldn't take out trash and sell it as a treasure. This is just in passing." Saying that, Wu Ji gave Wang Yu a look. Wang Yu casually took out the dragon egg. This is a pet egg?" Gio was indeed a professional. He could tell what Wang Yu was holding in his hand at a glance. Compared to materials such as dragon scales and dragon meat, the value of this pet egg was much higher. After seeing the pet egg, Gio's eyes were immediately drawn to it. "Yeah." Wang Yu nodded and displayed the pet egg's attributes. Plop! Seeing the pet egg's attributes, Gio fell to the ground in shock. After a long time, Gio pointed at the pet egg in Wang Yu's hand and exclaimed, "Dragon egg!" "It's a black dragon's egg," Wang Yu corrected. Black dragons were superior dragons. They couldn't be classified as ordinary dragons. "Why, this thing is rare enough, right?" Seeing Gio's calm expression, Wu Ji walked over and asked with a smile. Gio said repeatedly, "Enough, enough. It's definitely enough." Currently, pet eggs were extremely rare. Setting aside the value of their attributes, pet eggs were even more rare than mythic equipment. Tycoon players were different from ordinary players. When they bought items in the game, they usually didn't care about attributes. After all, no matter how amazing a player was, their attributes couldn't compare to a money warrior's. "I have what others have, and I have what others don't." This is how the nouveau riche shows off. That was why pets, which were extremely rare, were the favorites of those rich second generations. Dragons were the supreme creatures in the first place. Dragon pets were extremely rare in any game, not to mention the rarer superior black dragon eggs. Not long ago, a shadow falcon pet egg had been sold for a sky-high price. Old Joe did not dare to imagine what kind of chemical reaction the black dragon egg in Wang Yu's hand would cause. As for the class requirements, Old Joe didn't care at all. Dragon Knight wasn't a rare class. Although its attributes and skills were trash, one of Old Joe's biggest clients chose this class. There is no such thing as the strongest class, only the strongest money player. Even if it was a trash class, as long as you spent money, you would be invincible. Rich people liked this kind of unexpected style. And Old Joe's client also dreamed of getting a pet. With this black dragon egg, there was no need to worry that he wouldn't pay. Young Master Phone will definitely like this. Thinking of this, Old Joe's face revealed the unique smile of a businessman. He reached out to take the pet egg from Wang Yu's hands. Smack! Wuji stretched out his staff and slapped Old Joe's hand away. What's the hurry? You haven't even given me a price yet. Old Joe was in a daze. After pondering for a moment, he said, Don't worry. This thing is very rare. The minimum guarantee is 200,000 gold. 200,000 gold. TSK. Hearing Old Joe's price, Wang Yu and Wuji couldn't help but sigh. 200,000 gold. That was more than 10 million gold. It had to be known that the current price of a piece of divine-grade equipment was only a few million. Yet this pet egg with a class restriction was actually so high. No matter how rare dragon pets were, pets still had growth potential. Not only was their growth rate extremely slow, but the pet's level couldn't exceed the owner's. Right now, the highest level player was only level 50. No matter how amazing a level 50 dragon was, how amazing could it be? In terms of cost-performance ratio, the difference between a pet and a divine-grade equipment wasn't small. Only those young masters who were fully equipped with top-notch equipment would spend so much money on pets. If it were anyone else, they would definitely not spend so much money on pets. Old Joe laughed. This is only a preliminary estimate. If it were put up for auction, the final transaction price would definitely far exceed this price. You have to consider the mentality of those rich people. If they dare to spend 10,000 gold on a piece of dark gold equipment, they definitely won't care about 100,000 gold for a unique dragon pet. They don't need the best, just the rarest. Tisk. Wang Yu looked at Wuji in amazement and said, This old fellow is even more unscrupulous than you. This is called the wisdom of a businessman. Old Joe smiled as he received the dragon egg. He then handed over a contract to Wang Yu and said, I'll arrange a VIP seat for you at the auction tomorrow. Wang Yu looked at the contract and said with a smile, I'm not busy with the contract. I still have something here. Help me buy it. Saying this, Wang Yu took out the City Lord's seal and handed it to Old Joe. When Old Joe saw this square thing, he thought that Wang Yu had given him something worthless and wanted him to buy it for him. Usually, Old Joe would ignore Wang Yu. However, with the dragon egg as a foundation, even if Wang Yu threw that wooden sword to him, Old Joe would still catch it and give Wang Yu a good price. Thus, Old Joe took the seal from Wang Yu's hand and said with a smile, It's nothing. It's just this thing. Is this a weapon or an accessory? As he smiled, Old Joe glanced at the attributes of the seal in his hand. F***CK. Seeing the attributes of the seal, Old Joe couldn't help but curse. He jumped up and threw the seal in his hand. Fortunately, Wang Yu's eyes and hands were sharp. He reached out and caught the seal in his hand, then handed it over to Old Joe. God, you really are a god. Old Joe held Wang Yu's hand. His whole body was trembling and his face was full of admiration. He didn't know what words to use to express his current feelings. He was just short of kneeling down and kowtowing to Wang Yu. The City Lord's seal. This was a really good item. Its rarity was definitely not lower than that of a pet. Its value was definitely higher than any other item in the game. Its price-performance ratio was definitely higher than that of a divine artifact. No matter how you looked at it, this was the highest quality auction item. Old Joe had opened the auction house for so long, but he had never encountered an item that he didn't even dare to estimate its price. Chapter 1053. It wasn't that old Geo hadn't heard of the reputation of the Chuanjin sect, but the rumors about the Chuanjin sect were basically talking about how this group of people were inhumane and rarely mentioned the strength of these people. Old Geo usually came into contact with the upper circle of the game, so he didn't pay much attention to the two in the beginning. However, after seeing these two things, old Geo could not help but look at Wuji and Wang Yu with awe. After all, the ability of the people who could get these two things could definitely be described as terrifying. The strong were respected. This was the most basic code of conduct in the game. Can this be valued? Wang Yu asked faintly. This is not easy to estimate. Old Geo replied with a stutter. This was the Castellan seal. Apart from this one, there was only one known to be found, and it was still in the hands of Iron Ox, the Castellan of Yu Huicheng. Even his own auction house had not handled such a valuable thing. Thinking of Iron Ox, the Castellan of Yu Huicheng, old Geo's awe of Wang Yu deepened. Meow. He almost forgot that this guy in front of him was the holder of the other seal of the Castellan of Yu Huicheng. Damn, both seals are in this guy's hands. Is this guy a relative of Ma Longting, the boss of Longting Company? A cow and a horse, but you don't have to worry. Old Geo said again. Even if we can't value it, we can still bid for it. Oh. Wang Yu nodded and did not speak again. Oh. Seeing Wang Yu's attitude, old Geo was stunned again. What kind of reaction is this? Giving such a valuable thing to others. And he just said, oh, this is a bit too much. Then should we bid for this thing? Old Geo asked cautiously. Yes. Let's sign the contract. Wang Yu said casually. Yes. Old Geo nodded quickly and signed a contract for Wang Yu. Then he handed it over and handed Wang Yu a badge. Wang Yu took the contract and glanced at it before stuffing it into his pocket. He then took the badge and asked, What's this? Old Geo said, We are the VIP of the auction. With it, no matter if you bid or buy something here, you could get a 50% discount on the processing fees. It was an auction, after all. What they earned was the processing fees from both sides. Wang Yu's items were worth a lot of money, so the processing fees were naturally high as well. A 50% discount could really save a lot of money. Well, it sounds pretty good. Wang Yu looked at the badge in his hand with satisfaction, then patted it on his chest. Seeing Wang Yu accept the badge, old Geo said, The auction will start at 8 p.m. tomorrow. You must be punctual. Got it. If there's nothing else, we'll leave first. After saying that, Wang Yu waved his hand and left the auction house with Wuji. Seeing that the two of them had left, old Geo opened the guild channel and sent the two items that Wang Yu had bought to the group chat. He said, We received 2 good items today. Everyone, quickly go and advertise them. Most importantly, do all the major guilds know about it? After sending the message, old Geo opened his friends list and sent a message to all the big customers in his friends list. There will be extremely rare items at the auction tomorrow. Everyone make sure to come. Soon, someone replied, I know. It's the Sky Dragon City's Castellan seal. Young Master Foam, how did you know? Old Geo saw the message and asked in confusion. Of course I know. This seal is mine. Young Master Foam shouted. Old Geo saw young Master Fang's determined look and smiled in satisfaction. Other than the seal, there's another good item. Young Master Foam, you will definitely like it. Oh, what other good items? Young Master Foam heard and asked curiously. Black Dragon Pet Egg. Old Geo's lips curled up slightly as he sent the pet egg's attributes over. Young Master Fang's reply was also very generous. Leave it for me. I'll go and get the money. There will be a lot of rich people tomorrow. Old Geo replied a little awkwardly. Young Master Foam snorted coldly. Nonsense. Who's richer than me? That's true. Old Geo smiled slyly. His face showed an expression that his plan had succeeded. Where are we going now? On the other side, after exiting the auction, Wang Yu asked blankly. He was unfamiliar with this place, and Wang Yu was not very used to it. Of course, we're going back to Yu Huicheng, Wuji said as they walked in the direction of the port. Didn't you say that you were going to promote the auction? Wang Yu asked after thinking for a while. Wuji said faintly, Old Geo is a businessman. Looking at the current situation, Old Geo will definitely find someone to do something as trivial as promoting the auction. There's no need for us to trouble ourselves. Oh, indeed, Wang Yu nodded and said, but tomorrow is the auction. What's the point of going back? The Freedom Cities were not close to Yuhuicheng. It would take more than an hour to go back and forth. How troublesome would it be? Nonsense, Wu Ji said. Of course, I'm going back to submit the mission. Mission? What mission? Wang Yu was stunned. Of course, it's the awakening mission. When the awakening mission was mentioned, Wu Ji looked at Wang Yu with hatred. Oh. It turns out to be the awakening mission. After listening to Wu Ji, Wang Yu also remembered that he had not submitted his awakening mission. He had forgotten about it after a week of rest. However, on second thought, Wang Yu said, Did you do your awakening mission here? Yes. Wu Ji spread his hands and said, Otherwise, how would I know that there's an auction here? That's not right. Shouldn't you be doing the awakening mission in Yuhuicheng? Wang Yu asked curiously. Everyone in Xuanzhen was doing the awakening mission now. Except for Wang Yu, who was the only hidden profession, everyone else's awakening mission was done in their respective main cities. Wu Ji did not have a hidden profession, so it was strange for him to go so far. It would have been better if Wang Yu had not asked. As soon as he asked this question, Wu Ji's face immediately darkened. He said gloomily, You still have a cheek to ask? Isn't it because of you? Me? What about me? Wang Yu was surprised. Wu Ji said, Now that Yuhuicheng is in the neutral camp, we clergymen are no longer protected by the God of Light. Of course, we have to come to the Freedom Cities to do the mission. Oh. I see. Wang Yu suddenly understood. Of course, the Freedom Cities were absolutely neutral. Moreover, they were doing well on both sides. Yuhuicheng, who had offended both sides, would have to come here if he wanted to do his profession mission in the future. It was no wonder that Wu Ji looked at him with such a miserable gaze. After flying for more than half an hour, Wang Yu and Wu Ji finally returned to Yuhuicheng. At the port, the two parted ways. Wu Ji went to find his mentor, while Wang Yu strolled to the alley where Hermit was. Chapter 1054. Yes, teacher. His Excellency Dales personally taught me. I have benefited a lot from it. Wang Yu replied according to the system's instructions. As the saying goes, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. In truth, Wang Yu was not going against his conscience. After being tricked by Dales, not only did Wang Yu improve his martial arts, but he also gained a new understanding of the shamelessness of NPCs. Didn't he benefit a lot from it? You've done well, young man. Hermit glanced at Wang Yu in admiration before he continued to ramble on. As the saying goes, a wise man seeks strength from within, while an unwise man seeks strength from without. The essence of a martial arts scholar is not divine weapons or sturdy armor, but the ability to sense the opponent's weaknesses and continue to destroy them. I hope that the spirit of the martial god will be inherited by you. After saying that, Hermit spread out his hands. A dazzling blue light slowly flew from Hermit's palms to the top of Wang Yu's head. From the top of Wang Yu's head, it entered Wang Yu's body. System notification. You have completed the Awakening Quest, Hero's Trial, and obtained the inheritance of Martial God. Your cultivation will break through the barrier of your mind and reach a new level. System notification. You have obtained a permanent buff, Martial Awakened. All attributes forever increased by 100%, EXP plus XXXX, Reputation plus XXXX, System notification. You have learned the Awakening skill, Profound Meaning, Dragon Subduing Palm. System notification. Level up, level up, level up. At level 50, although Wang Yu's EXP was locked, it was stored. The EXP obtained from defending the city and the EXP obtained from killing Long Out Yin allowed Wang Yu to reach level 55. Of course, relatively speaking, the increase in level did not have much of an effect on attributes. What surprised Wang Yu the most was that after awakening, all of his attributes had actually doubled. No wonder the system said that the difference between before and after awakening was like the difference between heaven and earth. It seemed that it was not just a matter of equipment. The increase in realm and the leap in attributes was definitely not something that could be made up for with equipment. This feeling, after sensing his attributes after awakening, Wang Yu could not help but reveal an unprecedented smile on his face. Wang Yu was originally a martial arts expert. The attributes in the game suppressed his own strength. Although Wang Yu had always been invincible in the eyes of others, Wang Yu was the only one who knew how suppressed he was. After all, he couldn't use all of his strength. It felt like he was tightly bound by something. Now that Wang Yu had awakened, his attributes had doubled. At this time, Wang Yu's in-game character and Wang Yu's strength in real life had basically matched up. Therefore, Wang Yu felt as if layers of seals had been unlocked. His entire body felt extremely comfortable. Everyone knew that the human body had strong adaptability. After staying in a harsh environment for a long time, the body would gradually adapt. Wang Yu had been under the suppression of the system for so long. His body was not much, and had already adapted to this state. Now that his attributes had greatly increased, Wang Yu felt as if he had just come out of gravity training room. His entire body felt light. As for his strength, there was not much to say. The experience of fighting in the game had trained Wang Yu's combat skills. The system suppression of Wang Yu's strength had made Wang Yu's understanding of combat skills more refined. These insights and improvements from combat were definitely not something that could be experienced in a peaceful and comfortable life. Although the attributes of Wang Yu's character had only doubled, after such a long period of weight-bearing training, Wang Yu had long broken through his own limits. Wang Yu, who had returned to his true self, had greatly improved his combat skills, whether it was in or out of the game. After adapting to his character again, Wang Yu, who felt the changes in his body, could not help but feel a little lucky. Fortunately, Wang Yu had been forced to play this game due to the pressure of life. Otherwise, with his original martial arts realm, he would not have improved so quickly. Seeing Wang Yu's expression, Hermit asked with a smile, "How is it? Did you feel an unprecedented power?" Hearing this, Wang Yu turned his head and sincerely cupped his fists at Hermit. "Thank you, teacher, for your guidance." For other players, the awakening might only make the game character a little stronger, but for Wang Yu, it was a personal experience of endless benefits. This thank you, Wang Yu is not only saying it to Hermit, but also to the system. "Ha," Hermit said with satisfaction. "Next time you come, just bring more good wine." Of course. Take these bottles of wine first." Wang Yu took out a few bottles of good wine and stuffed them into Hermit's hands. When Hermit saw the wine, his eyes immediately disappeared from Wang Yu. He turned around and continued to live like a drunkard. After feeling emotional about the increase in her attributes, Wang Yu closed her stats window. She was just about to go out and look for a small monster to train her skills when she heard the people from the Chuanjian sect arguing in the guild channel again. Wang Yu opened it and saw that a place one's pride had just finished the awakening mission and was showing off to him. "Uncle Nyo, look at my triple thunderbolt kick. Can you take it?" Iron Ox, to place one's pride, yelled and sent a screenshot of the skill. Bullsh asterisk T. Mingdu saw to place one's pride screenshot and scolded disdainfully. "You have a nerve to send this stupid skill? Look at your daddy Mingdu's Thunderstorm, an S-tier godly skill." Tisk, isn't Thunderstorm a legendary pseudo-godly skill? My Death Waltz is the real S-tier, okay? Look at my Gale Flash Slash. Look at my Yama Kill. These guys from Chuanjian had no other hobbies than to compare with each other. To place one's pride, posted his own skill. The others were immediately dissatisfied and posted their own awakening skills. The guild channel was in chaos. "You guys had a new skill?" Seeing that everyone had posted skills that they had never seen before, Wang Yu asked aloud. Everyone saw Wang Yu speak and said in unison, "Awakening skill. Don't say you don't have it. Quickly post it and let us see." Awakening skill. I think there's something called Dragon Subduing Palm. Wang Yu thought about it and clicked on the skill window. He scrolled down and found the newly learned awakening skill, Profound Meaning, Dragon Subduing Palm, and then sent a screenshot of the skill to the channel. In an instant, the guys who had just been bragging about their skills in the guild channel were all quiet. Profound Meaning, Dragon Subduing Palm. Martial Arts Ultimate Awakening Skill. Grade, S+ Introduction. Under the stimulation of the Dragon Emperor's bloodline, players can increase their strength to the extreme and burst out with great destructive power. Profession requirement: martial arts scholar special requirement. Dragon Emperor's bloodline-bound player. Iron Ox background story. Legend has it that martial god created a palm technique when he subdued the Dragon Emperor Dales, hence the name, Dragon Subduing Palm. During the Great War of Gods and Demons, Lord Martial God used this palm technique to cut open the void world and open up the battlefield of gods and demons. With this palm technique, tens of thousands of gods and demons could not resist more than 2 moves. For a time, he was invincible. This is Old Cow's skill. Chapter 1055. It was not just rebirth. In any game, to judge whether something was good or bad, apart from looking at its original attributes and functions, the most important factor was its background story. Obviously, the system was more concerned about its reputation this time. Wang Yu had gone through a lot of trouble for this mission and had even destroyed a main city. No matter how shameless the system was, it was too embarrassed to give Wang Yu a rubbish skill. Although Wang Yu's skill did not specifically describe the power and energy consumption of the Dragon Subduing Palm, it was not difficult to tell from the background story that this was definitely an unparalleled skill. After all, it was the first time that everyone had seen a skill like the Dragon Subduing Palm described in the background story. Slaying gods and demons, invincible in the present age. Just the last sentence alone made everyone feel elated. The skills of the others were also quite powerful S-rank skills, but when compared to Wang Yu's Dragon Subduing Palm, no one felt embarrassed to boast. However, skills were not too important to Wang Yu, especially a skill that sounded so powerful. The preparation time and MP consumption would definitely be very shocking. In contrast, Wang Yu preferred skills that had less MP consumption and could be integrated into his martial arts. Even Hermit had said that the wise sought power from within. In the eyes of Wang Yu, who had a complete set of combat skills, these game skills were also considered external power. The essence of martial arts was the consistency of combat skills. No matter how powerful those external forces that hindered one's own strength were, they were all a burden to a qualified martial artist. Therefore, Wang Yu's attitude toward the Dragon Subduing Palm was not like the other people in Xuanzhen who regarded it as a divine skill. Instead, he said indifferently, "I don't know much about this skill. The key is whether it is practical or not." Come on, Old Cow is a typical example of someone who takes advantage of others and pretends to be obedient. Apart from Yang Na, who was also a martial artist, everyone expressed their disdain towards Wang Yu, who was just standing there and talking nonsense. The auction would start at 8 o'clock in the evening tomorrow. However, Wang Yu had always been a punctual person, so in the afternoon of the next day, Wang Yu and Xuanzhen's group arrived at the Free City. Truth be told, Wang Yu did not expect Xuanzhen's group to tag along. However, after witnessing Wang Yu's skills, they felt pressured from within. One after another, they expressed that since they had money, they should not wait for it to depreciate. They must do something meaningful, such as going to the auction to buy some equipment. The people of Xuanzhen could be said to be overflowing with wealth. In terms of gold coins, there really weren't many people who were richer than them. They were qualified to come here to buy things. As soon as they got off the airship, Xuanzhen's group felt that the Free Cities were different today. The Free City was a main city of the same level as the City of War God. In terms of scale, it was much larger than Yuhuicheng's. However, the players on the streets were crowded shoulder to shoulder, and it was extremely crowded. It was as if the major guilds had besieged Yuhuicheng not long ago. It had to be known that the map of Rebirth was still very large. Since the start of the game, everyone had never been so crowded except for the day when the game was officially launched. The strong warriors were still better off, but for mages like Mingdu, who were relatively thin and frail, he was almost squeezed out of the group several times. This made Mingdu, who was already irascible, very angry. He raised his staff, and lightning surrounded him as he stretched out his hand to slaughter people. Fortunately, Wang Yu's eyes and hands were sharp. He stretched out his hand and pressed Mingdu to the ground. "Control your temper. This isn't Yuhuicheng's." As he spoke, Wang Yu pointed at the guards at the corner of the wall. There was a sentry every 10 steps. Why was the free cities so peaceful? It was because the guards were very intimidating. If players dared to cause trouble, the guards could easily suppress them. No matter how different the ideologies of the two factions were, they had to sit down obediently and talk things out in front of the guards. Radiant City was still filled with reverence towards these guards. Seeing so many guards, Mingdu gasped. F***CK. Why are there so many players in this lousy place? How would I know? There weren't so many people when I came yesterday. Wang Yu pursed his lips. Although the free cities weren't small, compared to Yuhuicheng, they only had more guards. The players were actually at the level of an ordinary main city. At that time, Wuji said calmly, "Obviously, these are the players from the major guilds who came to participate in the auction. It seems like Old Nine's methods of creating hype are much better than ours." "That's for sure." Famous Sword Daoshua said, "Last night, I was browsing the forums. The headlines on the front page of the major forums were all about today's auction. They are professionals. Players who are participating in the auction?" Hearing Wuji's words, everyone looked around hurriedly. As expected, the surrounding players were all in groups, and every group had the same badge hanging on their chests. It seemed like they were all here for the Castellan seal. It seemed like the saying, "marketing hype is a family," was true. In order to sell their goods, merchants were always keen on creating public opinion. Who knew how many years ago, November 11th and December weren't holidays? Now, eating dumplings on Christmas Day and the price of apples on Christmas Eve had become a custom. Of course, the more people there were, the better it was for Wang Yu. The higher the competition, the higher the price. Everyone understood this logic. Therefore, the group had no choice but to put away their gloomy mood and fly into the room, which was more spacious. When the Chuanjin Sex group arrived at the entrance of the auction house, the first thing that caught their eyes was a large sign. The meaning of the sign was also very simple and clear. All players with a net worth of less than 200,000 gold are prohibited from entering. This was very normal. There were only so many seats in the auction. Of course, they couldn't let everyone in. As the saying went, there were policies from above and countermeasures from below. Old Gio could only put up such a large sign at the entrance of the auction. Looking at this large sign, Chuanjin's group couldn't help but sigh. An auction that dared to shout out such a slogan was probably the legendary case of a big shop bullying its customers. It couldn't be helped. After all, they were doing business for the rich. They couldn't be bothered to earn the money of ordinary people. Moreover, this kind of classification could also increase the vanity of the players who were qualified to enter the auction, just like the so-called VIP system. As a businessman, Old Gio was still very competent. In the game, apart from Chuanjin's group, the only people who could carry a huge sum of 200,000 gold with them were the guild leaders and second generations of the big guilds. Due to this almost strict entry requirement, the number of players who could enter the auction was naturally an extremely small portion. Even so, there were still 3 to 4 hours before the auction started, and the venue was already filled with people. After all, it was the Castellan seal. Guilds with a little bit of capital came to join in the fun. Even if they couldn't buy it, it was good enough to take a look. Chapter 1056. Although the people of Chuanjin loved to cause trouble, the free cities were definitely not the place to do so. Besides, since they were here to spend money, they had to follow their rules. Hence, they obediently lined up behind Wang Yu and waited for the inspection. The two guards at the entrance were still the two brothers, Murky and Bourbon. The inspection method was very simple. They just added the two as friends and sent their gold coins. This method of sending their gold coins was just like in the online games they used to play. They could only send the gold coins in their backpack and could not fake it. Although it was a little troublesome, it was very practical. However, when the inspection came to Wang Yu, Murky pointed to another passageway next door and said respectfully, "Master Iron Ox, please stand over there." Wang Yu was stunned. "What?" Murky hurriedly explained. "That's the free passageway. Our boss said that if you come, you can go there." Wang Yu suddenly understood. It turned out that Old Gio had informed the staff at the entrance to give him special treatment. "What about my friends?" Wang Yu walked to the free passageway and pointed to the people of Qianjin. Wang Yu had always been loyal to his friends. At this time, he did not forget the people of Qianjin. Murky looked at the people of Qianjin and said with a troubled expression, "Our boss did not say that. We know Boss Wuji and can go in with you. But who are the others?" Humph. Upon hearing this, Mingdu snorted coldly and slammed his magic staff on the ground. He said with a murderous look, "We are all from Qianjin." As he spoke, the other members of the Qianjin sect also took out their weapons and glared at Murky. Even Murky, the tyrant Bourbon, who was used to seeing big scenes, was frightened by this. As for the others present, there was no need to mention them. F***CK. They are from Qianjin. Why are they here? If there's no other way, let's go back and save ourselves the trouble. Hearing Mingdu's words, the surrounding players paled and hurriedly retreated. As the saying goes, good shoes don't step on smelly dog poop. It was best for this group of notorious fellows to avoid them. This was the free city, after all. Nobody was afraid of those fellows from Qianjin causing trouble. What they were afraid of was that the guards on the street would take care of them. One had to know that these 250 guards attacked indiscriminately. Seeing this, Murky hurriedly wiped his sweat and said, Big brothers and big sisters, I know. Don't make a fuss. You've scared away our guests. You should go that way with Master Ironox. That's more like it." Everyone put away their weapons and followed Wang Yu to the inspection free passage. TSK. As expected of Qianjin, these bandits. Seeing that the people from Qianjin had entered the venue without inspection, everyone at the back could not help but sigh at the arrogance and despotism of this group of fellows. Their reputation as bandit boys was not just for show. The inspection-free passage was a special passage for VIPs, and it led to the VIP seats in the front row. Under old Gio's arrangements, Wang Yu and his group were arranged to the seats with the best view. Unlike the individual seats of other players, the VIP seats were made up of European-style round tables. Around the tables were sofas, and on the tables were placed drinks and snacks. They were arranged in groups in the first 3 rows, and the quality of the seats was obvious at a glance. After all, rich people like to have class mentality. It had to be said that old Gio had done a thorough research on his own consumers. It was true that the people from Qianjin had dominated the game for many years, but this was the first time they had come into contact with such a high-level place. Moreover, these fellows liked to be in the limelight, so it was inevitable that they were a little overwhelmed. They could not help but look around and sigh. Old Cow is really capable. He actually managed to get such a front seat. You flatter me. Wang Yu nodded and smiled. He was as humble as ever. In fact, because of the deceptive Castellan seal, Wang Yu had always been a little guilty. He felt a little uncomfortable sitting in such a front seat. It could be seen that Wang Yu still had a long way to go when it came to being thick-skinned. Just when everyone was feeling refreshed by the things around them, a voice suddenly came from the table next to theirs. Hey, Tai, you still dare to come here after offending me? Are you trying to boost your courage by bringing such a group of unruly followers? When the people from Qianjin heard this, they were immediately stunned. Tai, how dare you? Unruly. F***CK. Where did this guy come from? He was yawning like a toad. How arrogant. Everyone followed the voice and forgot about it. They wanted to see who dared to speak so arrogantly here. At that time, they saw a well-dressed, thin, middle-aged man with shiny hair. He was staring at Wang Yu with all his might. There was also a circle of players sitting at the table next to the middle-aged man. Those players all had fierce expressions, and their bodies emitted a faint glow that was unique to dark gold equipment. One look, and they could tell that they were not easy to deal with. Seeing these guys, the people from Qianjin were stunned. Of course, they were not scared. This group of people with dark gold equipment still dared to take the initiative to provoke them. Wasn't this the legendary throwing a meat bun at a dog? Who is he? After coming back to his senses, Wuji poked Wang Yu in confusion. I don't know. Wang Yu scratched his head and then asked the middle-aged man, Who are you? Do I know you? This time, it was the people at the table next to them who were surprised. They all looked at the guy with shiny hair with puzzled eyes and asked, Young Master Foam, are you sure it's him? Compared to the enemy's contempt, the greatest insult was the enemy's disregard. On one side, they were gnashing their teeth in hatred, but on the other side, they did not know who their opponent was. This made it difficult for them to lose weight. Faced with his companion's question, that person said angrily, "Nonsense! I would recognize this bastard, even if he turned into ashes." As he spoke, that person pointed at Wang Yu and asked, "Are you Iron Ox?" "Yes." Wang Yu nodded. "Then you don't remember who I am?" That person angrily pointed at his head and asked, "I haven't seen you before, but your shiny hair looks a little familiar. Are you Shiny Light?" Wang Yu shook his head and asked, "I'm Shiny Light. Puffed. I'm a world of wind cloud." That person shouted in despair, "Oh, it's you." Wang Yu heard the world of wind cloud's self-introduction and nodded in understanding. Then he retracted his gaze. It was normal that he did not recognize the world of wind cloud's appearance. Wang Yu did not even look at this pretentious person. Seeing that Wang Yu was no longer paying attention to him, the world of wind cloud jumped up and down and shouted, "Iron, just you wait. If you offend me, I'll make sure you won't be able to leave this city." Seeing the world of wind cloud, who could not wait to die, the people of Chuanjin could not help but ask, "Old cow, what did you do to him?" "Nothing much," Wang Yu said calmly. "I just asked the guards to throw him off the airship." Chapter 1057. He threw the man off the airship on the airship. No wonder the whole of Wind Cloud was so excited when he saw Yi-chan. He made someone bungee jump without a rope. How much psychological trauma did he cause to the whole of Wind Cloud? Originally, they thought that Wang Yu had only defeated them in terms of strength. Who would have thought that in terms of insanity, she had also left everyone else in the dust? "I'm impressed." Everyone gave a thumbs up, expressing their admiration for Wang Yu from the bottom of their hearts. Beside him, Windy World looked at Wang Yu, who was talking cheerfully and wittily. He gritted his teeth and said, "Don't be too happy. I've said it before. I'm determined to get the City Lord's seal." Everyone was stunned. "Since you have a grudge against the old cow, shouldn't you not buy anything from the old cow? Who knows? Maybe there's something wrong with his brain." Wang Yu spread his hands helplessly. No one knew that people like the whole of Wind Cloud were used to using money to win people over. In the eyes of the whole of Wind Cloud, to be able to get the Castellan seal from Wang Yu was not only to buy what he wanted, but also to buy Wang Yu's character. "Didn't you not want to sell it? I'll throw money at you until you sell it." That's what I mean. The people of Chuanjin were people who believed in profit. It was reasonable that they did not understand the mentality of the whole of Wind Cloud. After all, the importance of money in the eyes of the whole of Wind Cloud was different from the eyes of ordinary people. 2 hours was not short, but it was not long either. Everyone was eating, drinking, and bragging. Time passed quickly in the blink of an eye. When the time was up, the doors of the auction house closed and the auction officially began. Under everyone's gaze, OL9 walked up the stage. "Good evening, distinguished guests. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. It's my honor." OL9 started with a tasteless opening speech. He told everyone that today's auction was unusual, so he would be hosting it personally. After that, he did not waste any more time and got down to business. After all, it was a place that catered to the rich. The first item to be auctioned was the equipment that the players were most interested in collecting. Moreover, the first piece of equipment was a dark gold bracelet. OL9 opened up the equipment's attribute sharing and introduced Knights of the Round Table Strength, dark gold wrist guards. Class requirement, dual agility and strength. Top tier for melee classes. Starting bid at 5,000. No cap. Every bid increment is at least 100 gold. The members of Chuanjin were excited to see the quality of the items being auctioned. They couldn't help it. Equipment was the foundation of the game, and it was what players needed the most. This was especially true for Mingjian Daoxue, who rubbed his wallet and said with a look of yearning, "Dark gold equipment right off the bat. This is making things very difficult for me." Mingdu said disdainfully, "TSK, look at how useless you are." Equipment had to be replaced sooner or later. Skills were still the most important. Save the money to buy skills. You know nothing. Didn't you hear what Uncle Nyo said? Wise men seek strength from within. Unwise men seek strength from outside. Having good control is more important than anything else. Money is just a worldly possession. To place one's pride was also showing off at the side. In the end, he even asked Wang Yu to embarrass himself. Uncle Nyo, if it were you, top-tier equipment, godly skills, and invincible control, which would you choose? Wang Yu shook his head helplessly and said, Little friend, I don't lack any of the things you mentioned. Everyone was speechless. Following that, Wang Yu said, just watch quietly. Only the things that suit you the most are worth buying. Wasn't that right? Mingjian Daoshue's control was slightly worse than the others, so it was reasonable for him to pursue equipment. As a mage, Mingdu's hard control was in anticipation, so naturally, skills were more important. As for to place one's pride, this kid was just bullsh asterisk T. This was a game. Without equipment and skills, if one wasn't a top-tier expert like Wang Yu, no matter how good his control was, he wouldn't be able to take a hit from others. Old Cow is right. Mingjian Daoshu nodded and wrote down his bid on the small sign he received when he entered the auction hall. 10,000 gold. The price of dark gold equipment was basically transparent in the market. 10,000 gold for this bracer was not considered expensive. The reason why he directly called out the price was because Mingjian Daoshue couldn't be bothered to waste time and time again. On the stage, OL9 saw Mingjian Daoshue's bid and immediately said excitedly, The VIP in row A, seat 5, has bid 10,000 gold. Is there a higher bid? Everyone present was basically here for the Castellan seal. Truly wealthy people did not lack dark gold equipment. Therefore, even if everyone liked this bracer, no one would throw their money at it. Therefore, when Mingjian Daoshue called out his bid, no one else raised the bid. Seeing that no one was raising the bid, OL9 shouted, Looks like this night's power will belong to this VIP. 10,000 gold going once, 20,000 gold. However, just when Mingjian Daoshue thought that the bracer was in his hands, Whole of Wind Cloud suddenly raised his sign. Dark gold equipment, unless it was a weapon or a piece of clothing, usually cost around 10,000 gold. Spending 20,000 gold for a bracer with average attributes was clearly not aiming for the item. Mingjian Daoshue heard this and glared at Whole of Wind Cloud with a dark expression. Oomph. Whole of Wind Cloud turned to Mingjian Daoshue and revealed a provocative smile. Damn it! Mingjian Daoshue was a meticulous person. He naturally knew whether it was worth 20,000 gold to buy a piece of equipment. Therefore, he cursed inwardly and put away his sign, waiting for the next item. The second item was also a dark gold equipment. It was a pair of dark gold shoes, Berserker's Footprint. It was a top-tier warrior item that increased strength and vitality. Bao San and Yin Lao Air discussed the ownership of the bracer and began to call out the bid. The bid was 15,000 gold. Just as they were about to obtain it, Whole of Wind Cloud raised his sign again. I bid 20,000 gold. F***CK. Seeing Whole of Wind Cloud's bid, Bao San and Yin Lao Air's expressions were exactly the same as Mingjian Daoshue's. They glared at Whole of Wind Cloud and unconsciously touched the weapons in their hands. The third item, the fourth item. The auction continued. As long as a member of Chuanjin called out a bid, Whole of Wind Cloud would follow suit. Moreover, the price was much higher than the value of the equipment, forcing the members of Chuanjin to give up on the auction. Naturally, the members of Chuanjin would not fight with Whole of Wind Cloud in this aspect. However, they did not feel good about it. If it was just the bracer and shoes, it would be fine. However, Whole of Wind Cloud was a knight, and he even wanted the equipment of a mage. Could it be that he was going to use it as a cleaning cloth? What kind of people were Chuanjin people? They were people who would suffer losses if they could not pick up a bargain. How could they be in a good mood when Whole of Wind Cloud dared to play such tricks in front of them? Chapter 1058. It was said that the Jade Emperor was fair to everyone. However, there were many people who were blessed by the heavens. For example, Wang Yu's martial arts, Wuji's intelligence, and the Whole of Wind Cloud's money. The people from the Quanjin sect could definitely be considered the wealthiest group of people in the game. Even so, the people from the Quanjin sect didn't spend their money meticulously, but they wouldn't squander it recklessly either. People from the Quanjin sect wouldn't be able to do something like the world of Windcloud, spending 20 or 20,000 to buy things that they didn't need. After all, no matter how rich Xuanjin's group was, they'd spent a lot of effort to scam and cheat others. Naturally, they could not be compared to the whole of Windcloud, who was like a burden and spent money to buy fun. Hearing whole of Windcloud's provocation, Wuji and the others narrowed their eyes and revealed a faint smile. At the same time, they said calmly, "Then we'll have to spend the money." Whole of Windcloud was slightly stunned. Then, a unique expression appeared on his face as he said, "Why? Are you afraid?" Faced with whole of Windcloud's mockery, Wang Yu, Wuji, and the others only smiled and did not reply. Although whole of Windcloud was not lacking in money, most of his gold was in the hands of the leaders of the major guilds. Therefore, whole of Windcloud's gold was not enough to buy the entire auction. Of course, it was not that he could not buy gold in the game shop. However, the exchange rate in the game shop was 101, and the online exchange rate was 51. Including the fees, the difference was more than half. It was true that whole of Windcloud had nowhere to spend his money, but he was not stupid enough to be a spendthrift. Harming others to benefit oneself had always been Xuanjin's style. There was no point in continuing the bidding with whole of Windcloud. Instead of letting other sellers benefit, it was better to raise the price of Wang Yu's item. Whole of Windcloud already knew that the Castellan seal was from Wang Yu. Moreover, with so many guild leaders watching, it was not up to Xuanjin to raise the price. However, if it was the dragon egg, there was a saying that went, "Keep the goodies within the family." After making up his mind, Xuanjin did not bid for the equipment, skills, and tools that were on display in the auction hall. Seeing the people of Xuanjin admit defeat, Windy World was in an exceptionally good mood. As the items were successfully auctioned off, the members of Xuanjin no longer dared to make a move. The whole of Windcloud felt more and more pleased with himself. He felt as though he had pressed Wang Yu to the ground and rubbed him. After OL Gio successfully auctioned off the last skill book, the lights in the venue suddenly dimmed. The atmosphere in the venue also became incomparably heavy. Just as everyone was holding their breath and thinking about what was going to happen next, a beam of light shone down on the center of the stage. At that time, old Gio's deep and magnetic voice could be heard saying, "The moment of everyone's attention has finally arrived. Everyone, prepare yourselves. Next, we will be auctioning an item that will definitely blind everyone's eyes. 3, 2, 1. Voila." As the countdown began, Ninth Brother stretched out his hand and removed the black cloth covering the auction item on the stage. At the same time, a round black egg came into view. At this time, old Gio did not keep everyone in suspense and directly displayed the dragon egg's attributes. At that moment, the entire venue was silent. After a few seconds, the atmosphere in the venue was pushed to a climax. F***CK. It's actually a pet egg. It's a dragon egg. A superior black dragon egg. The forum only said that it was a Castellan seal, but it didn't say anything about this item. After seeing the dragon egg, everyone was pleasantly surprised and saddened at the same time. They were pleasantly surprised that there was such a precious item in this auction, and saddened because they wanted to buy such a precious item, but they could not afford it. This was not because they did not bring enough money, but because they could not afford such a precious item even if they brought all their money. These guild leaders were not godlike tycoons like the whole of Windcloud. All of their savings were also guild funds. The guild funds were naturally aimed at raising the overall strength of the guild seal. Things like the dragon egg that could raise an individual's strength could only be looked at. At the same time, old Joe introduced in an exaggerated tone, "As everyone can see, this is a dragon egg. Moreover, it's a superior black dragon's egg. I don't need to say more about how rare pets are, but to be able to bring a superior black dragon out with you, even I can't imagine how much pride you will have. The black dragon pet egg starts at 100,000, and each bid increment is 1,000 gold. There is no upper limit. The auction begins now. Wow. The venue was in an uproar again. Seeing that the players' emotions were completely controlled by old Geo, the Quan Jin members could not help but sigh. Tifiske, they really know how to have fun. As he spoke, Mingdu raised a sign. 100,000, 150,000. Just as Mingdu raised his sign, a bald middle-aged man from a table on the other side of Chuanjin raised his sign with a face full of longing. This bald man sat in the first row, and it was obvious that he was also a rich man with an inexplicable fondness for rare items. 151,000. Before the bald man's sign could land, Springsore had also raised his sign. Poor bastard. Seeing how shameless Chuanjin was, the whole of Wind Cloud snorted in disdain and raised his sign. 200,000. The bald man looked left and right and was about to raise his sign when the whole of Wind Cloud stood up and shouted at the bald man. Wuku, do you think you can compete with me? The bald man was stunned when he heard this. He immediately shrunk his head and put down the sign in his hand. Seeing that his most powerful competitor had given up, the whole of Wind Cloud raised his eyebrows and pointed his chin at Wang Yu and the others with his other foot on the table. Wu Ji coldly snorted and calmly raised the card in his hand. 200,001. Ha! Seeing this scene, all the players in the venue could not help but laugh. From the fact that the whole of Wind Cloud had been intercepting Chuanjin's equipment, it was not hard to see that Chuanjin was going against the whole of Wind Cloud. Based on the rarity and preciousness of this dragon egg, 200,000 was definitely worth it. However, while everyone else was shouting in the tens of thousands, the people from the Quanjin sect were unhurriedly increasing the price by 1,000 by 1,000. They were clearly toying with the whole of Fengyan. The whole of Wind Cloud was not an idiot. Of course, he could tell that Chuanjin was purposely trying to disgust him. Seeing his opponent, who was scared to the point of not daring to breathe, suddenly coming out to trip him up, and hearing the players' ear-piercing laughter, the whole of Wind Cloud was instantly enraged. He raised a sign and shouted, 300,000! Whoa! Chapter 10:59. 300,000 gold coins. That was an astronomical figure when converted to RMB. No matter how rare a pet was, 200,000 gold coins was the highest price that the players could accept. After all, it was a rare item. Normal people would not be able to understand the mentality of a rich young master. The fact that the whole of Wind Cloud raised the price by 100,000 gold coins just because he was angry meant that he was a person who treated money like dirt. If it had been anyone else present, they would not have increased the price if they wanted to argue with the whole of Wind Cloud. 300,000 gold coins. If this spoiled brat suddenly changed his mind and stopped raising the price, wouldn't he go bankrupt? Of course, the people from Chuanjin did not take the whole of Wind Cloud seriously. Firstly, the people from Chuanjin did not lack money. Secondly, the pet belonged to Wang Yu. No matter how high the price was, the money would come back in a short time. At most, they would just have to pay a small commission. Young Master Wind Cloud had already bought so many items. It was only right for them to spend some money to accompany him. 301,000 gold coins. Wang Yu smiled at the whole of Wind Cloud and raised a sign. The crowd looked at Wang Yu's sign and could not help but sigh at Wang Yu's courage. The veins on the whole of Wind Cloud's head were bulging. Hee. Wang Yu laughed and mocked. Looks like you don't have enough pocket money. 350,000. The whole of Wind Cloud slammed the table. 350,000 going once. OL9 shouted excitedly. 350,000. 450,000. 410,000. The whole of Wind Cloud was flustered and exasperated. The price continued to soar, but Chuanjin's expression did not change. No matter how much money the whole of Wind Cloud offered, it would only increase by 1,000. The whole of Wind Cloud could tell that Chuanjin was planning to fight to the death with him. No matter what, he would not be able to take away the pet egg today. Since that was the case, he would not let these bastards get away with it. While he was thinking, the whole of Wind Cloud rolled his eyes and shouted, 500,000! This was the highest price that whole of Wind Cloud could offer. If Chuanjin dared to follow, they would just let them have it. If Chuanjin took a pet egg for more than twice the highest price, it was self-evident who would suffer a loss. After throwing out the bid, World of Wind Cloud sneered as he stared at Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled and raised a sign. Huh. Seeing this, Heavenly Wind Cloud laughed. Just as he thought that Wang Yu was going to raise the price, he saw 3 words written on Wang Yu's sign. You win. F***CK. Heavenly Wind Cloud held back a mouthful of blood as he pointed at Wang Yu in grief and indignation. Why aren't you increasing? Wang Yu chuckled and said, since young Master Feng Yin likes my egg so much, I'll just sell it. How can I keep it to myself? Heavenly Wind Cloud spat out a mouthful of blood. You sold these pet eggs? Damn it. He thought that this was an auction, but his opponent actually treated this as a place to haggle. What was worse was that he stupidly raised the price. Yes. Wang Yu cupped his hands at Heavenly Wind Cloud and said, I didn't expect young Master Feng Yin to like this thing so much. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Feng. You decide whether you want to fry or boil the egg. Heavenly Wind Cloud's face darkened as he clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. If it wasn't for the tight security in Freedom City, Heavenly Wind Cloud would have slashed him with his sword. On the other side, Big Baldy Wu saw Heavenly Wind Cloud's expression and whispered, Brother, aren't you afraid that young Master Feng will PK you in real life? Rich people, especially rich people like Heavenly Wind Cloud, basically had eyes and ears in both the underworld and the underworld. Normal people couldn't afford to offend young Master Feng. To place one's pride who was closest to Wu Ku said, real-life PK? My Uncle Neo will let him have both his hands and feet. Wu Ku was speechless. Heavenly Wind Cloud bought the pet egg for a high price of 500,000 gold coins. Although he wasn't short of money, he was still in a bad mood after being tricked by Wang Yu. At that time, OL9 on the stage took out the last item of the auction. It was also the item that all the players who came to the auction yearned for, the Castellan Seal. Before OL9 could introduce the item, the auction hall erupted. Everyone clutched the gold coins in their bags and were eager to have a try, hoping to rule over a region. OL9 cleared his throat and shouted, a real man's ambition is to travel far and wide. How can a guild that wants to conquer the world not have its own territory? Heavenly Dragon City is one of the 4 main cities. Now that the Castellan Long Out Yin has been killed, the city is without a lord. Heavenly Dragon City is the starting point for everyone to fight for hegemony. The Heavenly Dragon Castellan Seal will be auctioned without a starting price, and the price will not be capped. Start now. 10,000. Just as OL9 finished his words, a voice came from the corner of the room. Everyone rolled their eyes at the voice. 10,000 gold coins to buy the position of mayor? This must be a joke. 10,001 gold coins. At this moment, someone else raised the price. The players in Chuanjin felt that this cheap bidding style was exceptionally familiar. However, an item like the Castellan Seal was naturally worth more than this price. Although everyone wanted to lower the final price, they did not want others to take advantage of it. In addition, everyone had saved up their money for this moment. How could the price remain stagnant at this stage? In just a few rounds, the price of the Castellan Seal had soared to 200,000 gold coins. Moreover, the price was still rising rapidly. However, the whole of Wind Cloud, who had been active since the beginning of the auction, slumped on the table as if he had become listless. Hey, young Master Feng, didn't you insist on buying the Castellan Seal? Why aren't you bidding anymore? Wuji took out his staff and turned around to poke the whole of Wind Cloud. Nonsense. Don't you know why I'm not bidding anymore? The whole of Wind Cloud glanced at Wuji and ignored him. Ha! Wuji laughed and said, I'm afraid that you won't have any money after buying the pet eggs. It was true that the whole of Wind Cloud was rich, but under OL9's hype, almost everyone knew that the Castellan Seal would be in today's auction. Therefore, from yesterday until now, the market for gold coins was booming. There were people buying gold coins everywhere. No matter how rich the whole of Wind Cloud was, he could not stop the market from running out of stock. This brat was usually a big spender and did not have any savings on him. Therefore, He only bought 500,000 gold coins and was cheated by Wang Yu. Humph. The whole of Windcloud coldly snorted and said, "How can I not have money? In 2 days, there will be an order for gold coins. I will buy at least 10 million. Chapter 1061. What did you say? You're willing to lend me money? Hearing Wuji's words, the world of Windcloud was stunned. Men were after money, women, and status. The world of Windcloud definitely did not lack money. Since he was so rich, he definitely did not lack women either. The only thing the world of Windcloud lacked was status and authority. The Castellan seal could bring benefits to the world of Windcloud, such as taxes. However, the title of Castellan was something the world of Windcloud yearned for. However, after the fight with Wang Yu, the world of Windcloud did not have much money left in his pockets. Even if he wanted to borrow money, the other people in the venue were his competitors. Naturally, they would not lend money to the world of Windcloud. The world of Windcloud did not expect Xuanjin to approach them. Borrowing sounds so bad. Wuji smiled at selling. We don't need to buy the Castellan seal anyway, and we have some gold with us. Gold was a consumable. Although it could be exchanged with RMB, it was similar to equipment. It was something that could be dropped in the game. As everyone knew, the rarer something was, the greater its value. The more gold was dropped in the game, the less valuable it would be. As the game went on for a longer period of time, there would be more and more gold being sold online. The purchasing power and value of gold would also decrease. For normal players who spent all their time searching or those who spent money to play the game, it was a good thing. However, for players who had a large amount of gold, it was a problem. It was not a good feeling to watch their money depreciate day by day. This was especially true for the people from the Quanjin sect. When they were selling the cloak fragments and defending the city, they had made a huge fortune. Almost everyone had millions of gold coins piled up in their bags. If so many gold were to flow into the market, the value of gold on the website would plummet. Therefore, it was a problem for Xuanjin to deal with their gold. Now that the world of Windcloud was a ready-made fat sheep, it was not Wuji's style to not take advantage of it. In the auction just now, all the equipment that Xuanjin wanted were taken by the world of Windcloud. No one had spent a single cent, and the world of Windcloud was naturally aware of this. Hearing Wuji's words, the world of Windcloud snorted. So you want to sell gold? Bring your ratio, and I'll buy as much as you have. The world of Windcloud was as arrogant as ever. Xuanjin's gold reserves amounted to tens of millions. This was the hard-earned money of countless players. Even if they were to sell it at the normal rate, even a tycoon like Whole of Windcloud would not be able to digest it. Furthermore, with Wuji's habit of taking advantage of the situation, there was no way they would give him the normal rate. Hee. Wuji smiled at the arrogant words of the world of Windcloud and said, 170. Holy shit! Hearing Wuji's words, Windy the World exclaimed, that's too unfair. It's 150 on the website. Wuji laughed and said, brother, times have changed. Didn't I tell you? Distant water can't put out a nearby fire. If you knew that only I can save you now, would you still think it's expensive? Wuji had always been able to directly grasp the consumer's weakness. The ratio of 70 was not high compared to the market ratio, but it was not low compared to the market price. Considering that this was a special occasion like the auction, 70 was definitely the highest ratio that the world of Windcloud could accept. Any higher, and the world of Windcloud would probably give up. Any lower, and Wuji would suffer a loss. The world of Windcloud hesitated and said, is there a discount if I buy more? Of course. If it exceeds 2 million gold, I'll give you a ratio of 160. Wuji said without hesitation, cash, no IOUs. 2 million. The world of Windcloud bit his lips and said generously, all right, then give me 2 million gold first. Give me your bank account number. Young Master Phone is indeed generous. Wuji laughed and sent his bank account number over. With the cash in his bank account, Wuji transferred 2 million gold to the world of Windcloud. After receiving the gold, the world of Windcloud mustered up his energy and started bidding with the others. Holy shit, Wuji, How much gold did you sell it for? 2 million. A ratio of 1:60. Wuji grinned and extended 2 fingers. Holy shit. Why did you buy so much? The crowd was shocked when they heard this. Yesterday, the gold market was doing well. The ratio of gold to gold was only 50. Today, Wuji sold it for 2 million at a price of 60. Wuji said calmly. All the gold in the market was sold out yesterday. He probably has no place to buy it, even though he has the money. Damn it, if I knew that gold would sell so well, I would have put all the gold we have on the market yesterday, Mingdu said angrily. Idiot, Wuji said disdainfully. It looks like it's selling well because there's a shortage of gold. If you put all your money on the market, do you think gold will sell well? Wasn't that right? The people from Xuanzhen had tens of millions of gold. With such a large sum of money flowing into the market, the ratio of gold would only decrease and not increase. Selling the gold coins to others cheaply, and then others would spend the gold coins to buy Wang Yu's seal. Even those who engaged in multi-level marketing knew how to increase the price. If the Quanzhen sect really did this, it would be purely a loss. Then what should we do? We can't let our gold rot in our hands, right? Mingdu said gloomily. Wuji said calmly. What's the rush? There aren't many gold merchants left in the market. Aren't we the ones who set the price? The auction is over. Who will want to buy gold? The crowd curled their lips. Hee hee. Wuji chuckled and pointed at the world of Windcloud. Even if there aren't any customers, we still have to sell them. Ugh. The crowd mourned for the unlucky world of Windcloud for 3 seconds. With the participation of a rich second generation like the world of Windcloud, the auction quickly reached its climax. The price of the Castellan seal soared. Looking at the rising numbers on the stage, the number of players who raised their placards decreased. It couldn't be helped. Everyone's money came from their guild. It was different from the money that came from the wind, like the world of Windcloud. No one dared to shout against him. After a round of bidding, the Castellan seal was sold to the world of Windcloud for a high price of 1 million gold. Looking at the final price of the Castellan seal, Wang Yu was grinning from ear to ear. Seeing Wang Yu's strange expression, everyone was extremely puzzled. Old Nyo, it can't be. The last time we split the money, it was much more than this, but I didn't see you smiling like this. Huh? Wang Yu laughed. The world of Windcloud is going to spend the 2 million gold soon. The crowd was stunned. It can't be. Even if the seal is a scam, doesn't he still have 1 million gold? Could it be you? At this point, the crowd couldn't help but look at the world of Windcloud with a sympathetic expression. That's right, Wang Yu said with a smile. I transferred the 500,000 tax from Heavenly Dragon City's warehouse to me. Chapter 1062. Wang had been with Xuanzhen for a long time. Although there were times when he was unkind, he had never cheated others before. To be able to make a benevolent person like Wang Yu cheat someone, it showed how much Wang Yu hated World of Windcloud. If it was just because World of Windcloud liked to show off and spout nonsense, it would be fine. Wang Yu was not the kind of person who would target others because of their attitude. The reason why Wang Yu was pitted against World of Windcloud was because Wang Yu was certain that World of Windcloud was the one who hired people to slander him on the forums. After all, other than Xuanzhen, there were less than 10 players who knew that Wang Yu had the stamp. Yet, World of Windcloud knew about it. It was obvious that there was a mole in World of Windcloud. It was normal for a big guild like World of Windcloud to have 2 or 3 mole, but this time, it was a core member. It must be known that the treatment of a core member in a big guild like World of Windcloud was quite good. It was not much inferior to those professional players. To be able to directly bribe a core member, the benefits would definitely be much better than the current treatment. This made Wang Yu think of the grudge between Sky Sword and Blood Alliance. If it was not for World of Windcloud, who was a wealthy person, he would definitely not have the capital to poach other people's core members. Originally, this was a private matter between World of Windcloud and World of Windcloud. However, World of Windcloud had set his sights on Wang Yu. How could Wang Yu swallow his anger? He was already being merciful by not killing World of Windcloud a few times. Of course, if it was a normal player, they would definitely rather die a few times. At this moment, World of Windcloud was still immersed in the joy of buying the stamp. He proudly provoked Wang Yu. I said it before, this stamp will belong to me sooner or later. Tai, I see that you're a talent. As long as you call me Master Feng, I'll hire you to be my bodyguard. It had to be said that even though Windy World was arrogant, he still had a discerning eye. He could tell that Wang Yu's skills were extraordinary, but his brain was a little twisted. He actually dared to provoke Wang Yu in front of Wang Yu. King retard. The people of the Chuanjian sect were speechless when they heard this. They had traveled all over the world for so many years, but they had never seen such a suicidal fellow like Feng Tianxia. Wang Yu, on the other hand, did not even care about the world of Windcloud. He sent a message to Old Nine and asked him to send the money to him. Then, he stood up and walked out of the venue. I can't make a move in the free cities. Wang Yu is a grandmaster after all. It's indeed a bit degrading to talk nonsense with such a person. It's better to not see him and not feel annoyed. Seeing that Wang Yu had left, the rest of the Chuanjian team followed suit. Ha! Trash! Seeing this, Heavenly Windcloud laughed and gave Wang Yu and the others a middle finger. After the seal was sold, the burden in Wang Yu's heart was finally lifted. Although the world of Windcloud was buzzing around like a fly, to Wang Yu, these small matters did not affect Wang Yu's good mood. The auction lasted for a few hours, and it was almost midnight. The originally crowded free cities had also become more spacious. Wang Yu was a person with a more regular schedule. Usually, he would go offline before 10 o'clock and sleep. Today, he had stayed up until now, and it was already late. Let's go, time to sleep. After leaving the auction venue, Wang Yu stretched his back and yawned as he bade farewell to the people of the Chuanjian sect. He was about to go offline. Wuji reached out and pulled Wang Yu back. You're going offline so early? Are there any more fun events later? Wang Yu waved his hand and said, I'm different from you single dogs. I have more fun events. Before he finished speaking, Wang Yu turned into a white light and disappeared in front of the people of Chuanjian. That be *TCH. The people of Chuanjian clenched their fists and gritted their teeth as they looked at the place where Wang Yu disappeared. Then, they turned around and stared at Chun Xiang. Chun Xiang, don't tell me you're going offline to sleep with your wife. They did not dare to provoke Wang Yu, but did that mean they did not dare to provoke others? The group of single dogs shifted their resentment to Chun Xiang, who also had a wife. Chun Xiang, who originally wanted to go offline, saw the resentful gazes of the people and quickly shook his head. Don't make a fuss. I'm not as energetic as old cow. I still have to transfer the money for the milk powder to my child. That's good. Seeing that Chun Xiang was so sensible, the people could not help but nod. That's a good comrade. At that time, Wuji said, All right, stop talking nonsense. Put on these pieces of equipment, one for each person. Saying that, Wuji took out a pile of equipment and handed it to the people. When the people took the equipment and looked at it, their eyes lit up. Although the attributes of these equipment were not that great, they all had one attribute, and that was to hide the identity of the players. This attribute of hiding one's identity was a useless skill to normal players, but in the eyes of the scum of Chuanjian, it was definitely a top-notch attribute. After all, to this group of people, there was nothing more enjoyable than a cat in the dark to trick people. After putting on the equipment in Wuji's hands, the people could not help but sigh. TSK, as expected of old dog Wuji. He's indeed despicable and shameless, but I like it. Wuji said angrily. Bullsh *T. I'm honest and kind. I'm not the kind of person you're talking about. TSK. The people said disdainfully. Then why did you bring these things to the auction? Hee. Wuji chuckled. I didn't want to use them here, but didn't I meet someone who's looking for trouble? Stop wasting time. Everyone, quickly hide yourselves. Whole of Windcloud will be coming out soon. Listen to my command later. Are we going to fight here? Hearing Wuji's words, the people asked in surprise. Wuji pointed at the guards on the street and asked, Do you think there's a more suitable place than here? You're right. When everyone heard this, they looked around and immediately hid themselves above the upper room, lying in ambush. Although there were many guards in the Freedom Cities, they were used to maintain the security of the main city and not to serve a specific player. Therefore, the guards on the street were usually protecting public places. There were no guards at the entrance of a player's private house. The auction venue was also a private house, but it was not as big as a player's office. Instead, it was a standard large building. Therefore, there were no guards at the entrance of the auction venue. In other words, this was the only blind spot of the guards in the Freedom Cities. It was also the most suitable place to do bad things. Just as the people of Chuanjin set up their ambush, Whole of Windcloud walked out of the auction venue with a group of his underlings. Seeing how Whole of Windcloud was talking and laughing, it seemed like he had not discovered the secret of the seal yet. Even from far away, the people of Chuanjin could hear the flattering words of Whole of Windcloud's underlings. Huh, that guy with the surname, Tai must be so angry that he won't be able to sleep well. Young Master Foam is indeed formidable. That's right, what bullsh asterisk T number 1 expert. He doesn't even dare to fart in front of our young Master Foam. Chapter 1063. Hearing the flattery from the lackeys behind Heavenly Windcloud, the Chuanjin members could not help but twitch their lips. To be able to work as bodyguards for a rich man like Heavenly Windcloud, these guys were definitely not ordinary people. However, they were experts, so they should have the temperament of an expert. It was truly despicable for them to lower themselves and curry favor with those in power. Mingdu pointed his staff at Heavenly Windcloud and said, "Hee hee, so it's a bunch of bootlickers. Let's just go down and kill them." "Stop fooling around," Wuji said sternly. "There are guards everywhere. We won't be able to escape even if we kill them. Stick to the plan. Old man Little Snow, do it." "All right." Yang Na and Exquisite Dream nodded after receiving Wuji's order. The two of them knocked their arrows, and a row of arrows flew towards Heavenly Windcloud and his men. Although the actions of Heavenly Windcloud's lackeys were quite despicable, they were very skilled. Before Yang Na and Exquisite Dream's arrows could reach them, an assassin beside Heavenly Windcloud flashed and appeared in front of Heavenly Windcloud. He waved his dagger in the air a few times. With a few clanging sounds, Yang Na and Exquisite Dream's arrows were knocked to the ground. At the same time, the assassin shouted, "Not good, it's an ambush. Tiger, protect young Master Foam." The other people behind Heavenly Windcloud were not weak either. When the assassin turned around and charged forward, the rest of them quickly got into position and formed a circle, protecting Heavenly Windcloud in the middle of the circle. As the assassin shouted, a big man with a face full of beard swung his shield and blocked the front of the formation with a clang. His shield was perfectly positioned and blocked the vision of the archers from the Quanjin sect. Wow, this group of bootlickers is pretty good. Seeing how fast these guys reacted, the Chuanjin members could not help but be stunned. When faced with a sneak attack, ordinary players would subconsciously panic. It would take at least 4 to 5 seconds to form a defensive formation. As for Heavenly Windcloud subordinates, they reflexively formed a defensive circle at the same time they attacked. It was obvious that this group of fellows were battle-hardened veterans. It would not be easy for them to be annihilated so quickly. The free cities were a trade market for players. The biggest taboo here was fighting and looting. Once a PvP incident occurred, all the players here would quickly target the culprit. At that time, the situation would spiral out of control. Judging from the strength displayed by the bodyguards of the Whole of Windcloud and their full sets of dark gold equipment, the Chuanjin sect wouldn't be able to eliminate them without Wang Yu's help, at the very least before the matter blew up. Of course, Chuanjin's group was focused on robbing and had no intention of killing anyone. After all, the free cities were heavily guarded. Once they killed someone, they would be looking for trouble. Therefore, Wuji smiled faintly and sent a message to Yang Na when he saw the extraordinary performance of Windy World subordinates. The message was only one word: run. Upon receiving the order, Yang Na jumped down from the roof and ran towards the port. The Whole of Windcloud was shocked by the sudden sneak attack and was in a state of panic. However, when he saw the murderer trying to escape after the sneak attack, he immediately reacted. He pointed at Yang Na and shouted, "Mouse, don't let him escape. How dare he sneak attack me? He hasn't died yet, right? Chase him." The assassin who caught Yang Na in exquisite dreams arrows with his dagger hesitated for a moment before saying, "I'll go after him. The rest of you protect young Master Phone." After saying that, Mouse followed behind Yang Na and disappeared from everyone's sight with stealth. Seeing that Mouse had left, the shield-bearer called Tiger took out a light blue bead and threw it on the ground. A blue light spread out. It turned out to be the Eye of Truth. As expected of someone who worked for the rich, throwing an item that cost a few hundred gold coins just like that. However, the Eye of Truth was inserted at the right time. As the blue light spread out, fish in the North Sea appeared less than 2 meters away from Tiger. Seeing fish in the North Sea, Tiger coldly snorted, "Humph. I knew you were trying to lure me away." Just as Tiger finished speaking, a human figure suddenly appeared in the air behind fish in the North Sea. It was a tall and skinny assassin holding a green dagger and stabbed towards Fish's back. Pooh! The dagger stabbed Fish in the North Sea's body and produced a strange sound. The assassin was slightly taken aback as he saw that the target he stabbed was marked as a scarecrow. The real fish in the North Sea rolled on the ground and rolled out of the range of the Eye of Truth. She then ran without looking back. Tiger pointed at Fish in the North Sea and said, "Big dragon, hurry up and mark him. He's the real assassin." The tall and skinny assassin nodded and threw a red charm at Fish in the North Sea's back. At this moment, Fish in the North Sea received a notification. "You have been marked with a tracking spell. Stealth is temporarily unavailable." Tracking mark. It was a common rare skill. Once marked, the target would not be able to use stealth for 3 minutes. This was also the only skill in the current stage of the game that targeted the assassin's stealth. Who would have thought that the wielder of this godly skill was an assassin? Sigh, why would an assassin make things difficult for an assassin? The whole of Windcloud seemed to have a lot of trust in the abilities of his subordinates. He only brought 6 of them to this auction. After Fish in North Sea was marked, she had nowhere to hide. The other players who were originally protecting the whole of Windcloud immediately chased after her. As such, the only player left protecting the whole of Windcloud at the entrance of the auction hall was Tiger with his shield. Tiger raised his shield and retreated to the corner of the wall. He then stared at the position in front of him without blinking. At this moment, 2 arrows shining with a black light flew over, one after the other. Insignificant tricks. Tiger narrowed his eyes when he saw the black arrows. He raised his shield slightly to protect himself and the whole of Windcloud. However, the 2 black arrows drew a parabola and stabbed into the ground in front of the whole of Windcloud and Tiger. The whole of Windcloud and Tiger were speechless when they saw this. Damn it, if you want to ambush someone, you should at least have the ability to do so. How dare you call yourself an assassin when you don't even have the strength to shoot an arrow? However, before the 2 of them could look down on the person who shot the arrows, a few figures appeared from the corner of the wall. They were all masked, but it was not difficult to tell from their equipment that the person in front was a cleric. Behind the cleric was an assassin and 2 warriors. These people were naturally Wuji and his group. Tiger was shocked when he saw Wuji and his group. He immediately said to the whole of Windcloud, "Young Master Phone, leave first. I'll block them." Hee. Wuji laughed when he heard this. "Don't waste your energy. None of you will be able to leave." The whole of Windcloud and Tiger were slightly stunned. Just as they were about to move, they realized that they could not move at all. Chapter 1064. What's going on? The world of Windcloud and Tiger panicked when they found out that they were frozen in place. They quickly sent a message. "Come back, we've been ambushed." Seeing the 2 like this, Wuji grinned and said, "The 2 of you must be calling for reinforcements, huh? How did you know?" The world of Windcloud widened his eyes. "Huh." Wuji laughed. "Of course I know. I also know that they won't be coming back anytime soon." As expected, just as Wuji finished speaking, the world of Windcloud and Tiger received a message from Mouse and the rest. "Oh no, we've been ambushed too. The enemy is very strong. We won't be able to return anytime soon." The world of Windcloud was dumbfounded when he saw the message from Mouse and the rest. He stared at Wuji and asked in panic, "Who? Who are you? The world of Windcloud was not smart. Didn't he see that the other party had covered their faces and wore equipment to hide their identities? It was obvious that they did not want to expose their identities. How could they find out by asking? Wuji said, "We're your daddy." The world of Windcloud was not stupid. He could tell that Wuji was making fun of him. He scolded back without thinking. Bullsh *T. I'm your grandpa. See? Wuji was not angry. He spread his arms and said, "Since you don't believe me, don't ask. Stand still. We'll only rob you of your money, not your body." Wuji snapped his fingers and a thick pink mist surrounded them. Bao San and Yin Lao Air leaped forward and grabbed one of World of Windcloud's arms each. They then pressed World of Windcloud against the wall. At this moment, famous sword Dao Shua also went up to World of Windcloud and started groping his chest. It was understandable if a lady touched his chest, but if a man touched his chest, the gaming experience would be terrible. It was obvious that World of Windcloud was a straight man. When famous sword Dao Shua touched his chest, World of Windcloud had goosebumps all over his back. He shouted in fear, "F***CK? What are you trying to do?" Mingji and Dao Shua raised his head and said with a wretched smile, "Don't be afraid. You'll know later." Before he could finish his words, a coat suddenly appeared in his hand. Seeing the jacket in Ming Jian Dao Shua's hands, Windcloud World felt that it was extremely familiar. He hurriedly lowered his head to take a look, only to discover that his jacket was gone. Holy shit! When Windcloud World saw that Ming Jian Dao Shua was actually holding on to his shirt, he immediately turned pale with fright. With a sobbing tone, he said, "Didn't you say that you don't rape women?" "Rape? Dream on." Mingji and Dao Shua muttered in disdain as he caressed Windcloud World's smooth chest. The world of Windcloud felt a cold breeze on his lower body as his pants were grabbed by famous sword Dao Shua. Without his shirt, he would at most be bare-chested, but without his pants, he would be running around naked. Even in the game, streaking was an extremely embarrassing thing. Even Bao San and Yin Lao Air, who were holding on a whole of Windcloud's arms, could not bear to look at it and turn their heads to the other side. "Damn it, it stings my eyes." Wuji asked curiously, "Damn it, Dao Shua. But doing this on purpose, aren't you?" Ming Jian Dao Shua stuffed Windcloud World's clothes into his bag as he muttered, "On purpose, my ass. The effect of the skill is random." Of course, the one who was suffering the most was Whole of Windcloud. F***CK. Whole of Windcloud cried out in despair. "I have money. I have money. How much do you want?" "Shut up. Who cares about your money?" Ming Jian Dao Shua glared at Whole of Windcloud World and continued to search Whole of Windcloud World's chest. Xuanjin had no lack of gold coins. Naturally, the currency in the game could not be compared to the hard currency of equipment. Although Whole of Windcloud was a knight, he could not move no matter how hard he struggled under the control of two top-tier warriors, Bao San and Yin Lao Air. Tiger wanted to help, but Exquisite Dream had pinned him down, and he could not move at all. He could only watch as Whole of Windcloud World was being groped by Ming Jian Dao Shua. There were laws in the game regarding sexual harassment by players, but they were only for the protection of female players. As for males, there was no such law in the country. The so-called equality between men and women had inexplicably tilted in this situation. After the battle to defend the city, the players of Afterglow City had all leveled up by 5 times. Therefore, Xuanjin's party could be said to be the highest leveled group of people other than Wang Yu. Moreover, Ming Jian Dao Shua had completed his awakening. With the suppression of his level and attributes, Ming Jian Dao Shua's skill success rate was extremely high. Almost every time he made a move, he would not miss. In the game, Ming Jian Dao Shua's skill allowed him to steal anything other than gold coins and bound items. It did not take long before all the equipment and items in Whole of Windcloud World's bag were taken by Ming Jian Dao Shua. Just as Whole of Windcloud was feeling hopeless, Ming Jian Dao Shua touched Whole of Windcloud World, and a square object appeared in his hand. Thump! Seeing the object in Ming Jian Dao Shua's hand, Whole of Windcloud's heart jumped to his throat. It was the Castellan seal. To Whole of Windcloud World, The Castellan seal was worth more than 1,000,000 gold coins. It was something that could not be bought with money. Now, that was in Ming Jian Daoxue's hand. Whole of Windcloud and Tiger were dumbfounded. Ming Jian Daoxue and Wuji's expressions were not much better than Whole of Windcloud worlds. The Castellan seal was something that Wang Yu was selling. They naturally knew what was hidden within it. How could it be that easy to become a Castellan? Just as Ming Jian Daoxue was at a loss, Whole of Windcloud suddenly said, Big brother, can you treat the equipment as a gift? Keep this thing for me. Equipment could be bought again, but there was no place to buy a Castellan seal. At a crucial moment, Whole of Windcloud avoided the important and focused on the trivial. You want it? Ming Jian Daoxue asked without hesitation. Whole of Windcloud was afraid that Ming Jian Daoxue would not give him the Castellan seal, so he nodded carefully. Here you go. Ming Jian Daoxue did not hesitate and quickly stuffed the Castellan seal in a Whole of Windcloud's hand, which was being held tightly by Bao San. You're giving it to me just like that? Whole of Windcloud's expression froze when he saw Ming Jian Daoxue return the Castellan seal. Obviously, he did not expect Ming Jian Daoxue to be so easy to talk to. There was an unspoken rule in the game that the more precious an item was, the harder it was to steal it. Since Ming Jian Daoxue had managed to steal something as precious as the Castellan seal, it seemed that Whole of Windcloud World's bag had been emptied. Chapter 1065. Don't. There's another one here. Daoxue was reluctant to leave when he saw that Wuji was about to leave. The world of Windcloud was a big fat sheep, and his subordinates would definitely not be thin either. Daoxue had just tasted the sweetness of success, so how could he leave just like that? Wuji glanced at Tiger and said, There's plenty of time in the future. Let's go. Their subordinate has committed suicide. Committed suicide? Daoxue's body trembled when he heard that. In the setting of rebirth, players could commit suicide. The reason for this setting was that as a holographic simulation online game, the map was unimaginably vast. It was inevitable for players to get lost or get stuck in a rather awkward place. Suicide was the only way for players to escape from a predicament, but there were also players who used suicide as a way to escape. After all, the EXP loss from suicide was only half that of a normal death. The subordinates of the world of Windcloud who were being held back by Chuanjin were not weak. It was not difficult for Chuanjin to kill such experts, but it would take more effort to capture them alive, let alone prevent them from committing suicide. The resurrection point was not far from the auction venue. If the players decided to commit suicide and escape, it would be difficult for them to escape once the reinforcements returned. Daoxue could only helplessly say, All right, I'll record it down. Old man, cover the retreat. As he spoke, Daoxue's figure turned faint as he activated stealth. At the same time, Exquisite Dream once again fixed the world of Windcloud and Tiger in place. Bao San and Yin Lao Air abandoned the world of Windcloud and drove Collision out of the world of Windcloud's sight. Wuji also flew up to the roof. By the time Rat and the others arrived, only Heavenly Windcloud and Tiger were left in the room. Mouse and the rest were dumbfounded when they saw Windcloud's appearance. Mouse took out a jacket and handed it to the world of Windcloud while asking in disbelief, Did we encounter thugs? The world of Windcloud, who had regained his freedom, first put on Mouse's jacket and scolded angrily, Thugs my ass! Have you seen thugs robbing people? My things were all robbed. They're bandits. Damn it. Everything was robbed? Hearing Windcloud World's words, Mouse was startled and hurriedly asked, Those bandits couldn't be after the City Lord's seal, right? As the saying goes, one is not afraid of thieves stealing, but one is afraid of thieves remembering. Although the public security of the free cities was good, it couldn't stop people from taking risks out of desperation. In particular, a precious tool like the City Lord seal was coveted by countless people. One must know that the free cities were congested because of this thing. It was normal for someone to covet the seal in the hands of the whole of Windcloud. There was no lack of top guilds among them. Not only did these people have the motive to commit the crime, but they also had the corresponding strength. If that was the case, it would be difficult to find them. One of the reasons why it was difficult to find a large guild in the game was due to the large number of them. The more important reason was that the bigger a guild was, the more the guild leader would want face. No one wanted to bear the reputation of being a bandit. If Whole of Wind Cloud were to rashly ask about it, it would undoubtedly offend the various tyrants. At that time, they might not even know how they died. No, Windy World shook his head. How did you know? Mouse's tone was a little unhappy with Wind Cloud World's direct rejection of his idea. He really could not think of anything on Heavenly Wind Cloud that was worth such a huge risk. The Whole of Wind Cloud took out the City Lord's seal and said, "Because they took the seal and returned it to me." Looking at the seal in the Whole of Wind Cloud's hand, Mouse's head was instantly filled with question marks. How could this be? It shouldn't be. Could it be that these people just wanted to strip the Whole of Wind Cloud and see his naked body? That was too King hardcore. It was not that Mouse's IQ was low, but compared to the City Lord's seal, the equipment that the Whole of Wind Cloud had lost was not worth mentioning. Yet, Chuanjin and the others returned the City Lord's seal. It was obvious that they were buying the casket and returning the pearls. After all, this was the Freedom City. It was really confusing for them to take such a huge risk just for a few pieces of equipment. Little did they know that Chuanjin's people had always been particular about how small flies were still meat. They were greedy and never looked down on small things. Moreover, these people knew the deceptive attributes of the seal. Hence, to them, the equipment on the Whole of Wind Cloud was much more valuable than the City Lord's seal. After pondering for a long time, Mouse could not find the motive of Chuanjin and the others. Hence, he asked the Whole of Wind Cloud, "Speaking of which, how many people are there in total?" Since he could not find the motive, he could only look at the characteristics of the characters. The Whole of Wind Cloud thought for a while and replied, 4. A cleric, 2 warriors, and an assassin. At this moment, Tiger said, "No, there should be an archer hiding in the dark." "All right, there's an archer, but his skills are terrible. He can't even hit anyone." The Whole of Wind Cloud was stripped naked, yet he still dared to mock others for their poor skills. Who gave him the courage to do so? "What do they look like?" Mouse asked again. "They're masked, but the cleric is wearing a white robe. One of the 2 warriors is tall and sturdy and carries a shield, while the other is of medium build and carries a 2-handed sword. The assassin is very wretched." "This," Mouse scratched his head speechlessly and said, "These are the characteristics of the class, all right? Is there anything more special, like skills or equipment?" "The equipment is average. As for the skills, the assassin is good at stealing." The Whole of Wind Cloud replied again. "Oh my God!" Mouse covered his face and collapsed. He had been defeated by the Whole of Wind Cloud. After all this time, he could not even remember the characteristics of his opponent. Without the characteristics and information of his opponent, there was no way to capture him even in the Freedom City. It could not be helped. No matter what, the Whole of Wind Cloud was not a professional. At that time, he was only concerned about fear and did not pay attention to these things. However, Tiger, who was controlled together with the Whole of Wind Cloud, was an experienced person. After hearing Mouse's question, he added, "That cleric seems to have a very special skill." "Oh, what kind of skill?" Mouse asked in surprise. Tiger said, "I'm not sure what skill it is, but it can change the environment." Mouse was shocked. "Change the environment? There's such a skill?" "Yes." Tiger nodded and said, "When they appeared just now, we were surrounded by a cloud of pink fog. Create a foggy weather? What's the specific effect?" Mouse asked with a frown. Mouse was also an expert of his generation. After traveling all over the world for so many years, he had never heard of such a skill. "I don't know the specific effect. We were all frozen and could not move. I suspect that the fog was causing trouble." Hearing Tiger's explanation, Mouse was speechless. Group immobilization skill? Why is it getting more and more mysterious? Chapter 1066. Control skills had always been highly valued by players. A good player could save the world in a PvP battle. As for crowd control, it was something that everyone had to understand before playing the game. There were only a few control skills in Rebirth that could achieve the effect of crowd control, and everyone was familiar with them. Even if there were some rare skills, Mouse, a veteran player, had basically seen them before. The advantages of this type of skill were obvious, but the disadvantages were also obvious. Although it could be used to control the crowd, it took a long time to prepare. Moreover, when it was activated, there was a relatively obvious casting range. If one was not an expert with good foresight, then a high-level player like Tiger would usually be able to dodge it. If it was really as Tiger said, that the opponent's skill was silent and had no prerequisites, and that a cloud of fog suddenly appeared out of nowhere, causing everyone to be unable to move, it didn't sound like the opponent was a player at all right? It's true, Boss saw it too, Tiger quickly said, seeing that Mouse was doubting him. Hearing this, the world of Windcloud also said, oh yes, there was a cloud of fog. Mouse was only doubting the effect of Tiger's skill, but he did not mean to doubt Tiger. Since the world of Windcloud had already said so, Mouse could not say anything else. After all, the world of Windcloud was the boss. No matter how doubtful he could not say it out loud. After thinking for a moment, Mouse frowned and said, I'll post a thread on the forum to find out what kind of skill it is. As for the Castellan seal, I think it's best that you use it now, lest something unexpected happens. Chuanjin's appearance gave Mouse a reminder. This was something that many people coveted, even if Chuanjin did not want it. Who knew how many other guilds would covet it? If it could be robbed in a heavily guarded place like the Freedom Cities, it would be even more difficult to say if it could be robbed outside of the Freedom Cities. It was better to use it first to avoid being targeted again. I wanted to, the world of Windcloud said with a bitter face, but this thing can only be used in Celestial Dragon City. Then let's return to Celestial Dragon City first. As he spoke, Mouse pulled out his dagger from the scabbard on his waist and carefully walked to the port with the others to protect the world of Windcloud. At the same time, Chuanjin's group had boarded the airship back to Yuhuicheng. Everyone was basically safe after boarding the airship. On the airship, the group counted their spoils of war, greeted each other, and went offline one after another. The design of the airship in Rebirth was still very user-friendly. After all, a flight that lasted only a few minutes was really boring in such a small space. If there was an emergency and everyone couldn't leave, it would be very disharmonious. The game designers had thought of this a long time ago and had specially designed a rest cabin for the players to log off in. When the airship arrived at the port, the players would automatically be placed at the port. Of course, this period of flight would be considered as AFK by default, and he would also have to pay for it. It seemed that the game company was the same as Chuanjin. They were greedy and never looked down on small things. As for the whole of Windcloud's side, the Castellan seal was still on him. The whole of Windcloud felt uneasy. Although it was early in the morning and everyone was yawning, for safety's sake, the whole of Windcloud's group forced themselves to stay awake. They decided to rest after flying back to Heavenly Dragon City. But after boarding the airship, Rat said, Now everyone is basically safe. I will go first. When the others heard this, they all shouted, Don't, Mouse. Everyone is in trouble together, okay? Why do you go first? Mouse raised his eyebrows and asked, What's wrong? Do you think I'm going to sleep? Isn't that the case? The others asked back. Hee hee. Mouse laughed. I'm going to investigate that pink mist skill. This is permitted by the boss, right, young Master Foam? As he spoke, Mouse glanced at the whole of Windcloud. The whole of Windcloud was depressed after being robbed, and now that he had to stay up all night, he was exhausted. When he heard Mouse's words, he waved his hand listlessly and said, Yes, yes, yes. You go first, I'll take a nap. Call me when we arrive at the port. See? Young Master Foam arranged it. Mouse smiled slyly and went into the rest cabin. F***CK. When the others saw this, they immediately regretted that they did not think of such a good reason. An hour later, the airship successfully arrived at Heavenly Dragon City. Because the previous Castellan, Wang Yu, had absconded with the funds, Heavenly Dragon City did not have the funds to maintain the city. Therefore, Heavenly Dragon City was still in ruins. Aside from Unhindered, which was a profitable guild, and Apocalypse, which was a deep-rooted guild, the rest of the players had mostly dispersed. Even the guilds that had a guild encampment in Skydragon City had moved to other major cities to seek shelter under other guilds' roofs. The entire city was lifeless and no longer had its former glory. The whole of Windcloud's Heaven Alliance was also a guild of Heavenly Dragon City. As a local, the whole of Windcloud and the others could not help but feel sad when they saw the state of Heavenly Dragon City. Sigh. The whole of Windcloud sighed and took out the Castellan's seal from his bag. Then he said with a Chinibu tone, "Those incompetent people are not fit to govern a city. I have met a wise ruler after obtaining this Castellan seal. Just you watch, I will restore Heavenly Dragon City to its former glory." As he spoke, a golden light flew out from the Castellan's seal and enveloped the whole of Windcloud. Then, it slowly seeped into the whole of Windcloud's body. At that time, the whole of Windcloud received a system notification. System notification: you have used the item Heavenly Dragon City Castellan Seal. You have obtained the approval of the Castellan Seal. You have become the new Castellan of Heavenly Dragon City. You have obtained reputation. You have obtained honor. You have obtained experience. After a series of notifications, the system notification rang in the sky above the game. Announcement: Heavenly Dragon City's player. The whole of Windcloud has obtained the approval of the Castellan Seal. He has become the new Castellan of Heavenly Dragon City. He will lead his citizens to shoulder the responsibility of rebuilding Heavenly Dragon City. His name will forever be recorded in the history books. The system notification repeated 3 times in a row, causing the sleepy whole of Windcloud and the others to wake up. Then everyone excitedly praised, "Congratulations, young Master Foam. You have become the Castellan of Heavenly Dragon City." The whole of Windcloud was finally the Castellan. Needless to say, he was in a good mood. Facing the compliments from his subordinates, the whole of Windcloud smiled proudly and said, "Ha, same to you, same to you." Just as everyone was bragging, the whole of Windcloud heard the sound of a quest notification. I seem to have accepted a quest," the whole of Windcloud mumbled as he opened the quest menu. However, the smile on the whole of Windcloud's face froze when he saw the quest notification. His face quickly turned black. A few seconds later, the whole of Windcloud suddenly threw the seal in his hand to the ground and roared angrily, F***CK. Chapter 1067. Many people wanted to be a city lord, but the whole of Windcloud didn't seem like a city lord at all. Could it be that he was so happy that he lost his mind? F***CK. The whole of Windcloud clenched his fists and spat out in grief and indignation. "I've been cheated." Cheated? Everyone was stunned and asked in confusion, "It can't be. Didn't you become a city lord?" "Yes." The whole of Windcloud nodded and said in despair, "This city lord is a F***king trap." The whole of Windcloud shared his quest as he spoke. Quest: rebuild your home level. S-Quest introduction. You received orders from a defeated army in times of danger. As the new city lord of Heavenly Dragon City, you have the responsibility to lead everyone in rebuilding their home. Quest details: your city has been severely damaged and needs to be repaired. The repair fee is 1 million gold coins. You have 1 day to prepare. Note: this is a compulsory quest for the city lord. If the repair fee is not paid by the deadline, it will be bound to the city lord and will be forcefully deducted. F***CK. Everyone was dumbfounded when they saw the whole of Windcloud's quest introduction. What the F***CK? It works like this. No wonder the people from Chuanjin put the seal up for auction. They knew about this from the start. 1 million gold coins might not be a big deal to the whole of Windcloud, but he had already spent 1 million on the seal and another 1 million to be the city lord. Wasn't this a scam? There was no free lunch in this world. Everyone understood this logic. However, it was a little too unsightly to pay for a meal to the chef and the boss. The whole of Windcloud had always thought highly of himself. He wasn't angry that he had spent an extra 1 million gold coins, but he was angry that he had spent the money and was treated like a fool. Feng Yin Tianxia was also a person who cared about his face. As the saying goes, if you don't steam buns, you have to fight for your reputation. How could Feng Yin Tianxia swallow this humiliation after being tricked by the Chuanjin sect? The whole of Windcloud was enraged. He couldn't help but shout, F***CK, this bunch of trash from Chuanjin, I'm not done with you. Everyone, follow me. I'm going to use Hui Cheng to annihilate them. As he spoke, the world of Windcloud turned around and was about to board the airship to fight against Chuanjin's men in Yu Huicheng. Seeing this, Tiger and the others immediately stopped Heavenly Windcloud from moving and advised, calm down, young Master Feng. Yu Huicheng is Chuanjin's territory. I heard that those people aren't weak either. We'll just be sending ourselves to our deaths if we go there. Why don't we wait for Rat to arrive and discuss this further? The whole of Windcloud was in a fit of rage, so how could he be persuaded? He struggled and shouted, Didn't Mouse go to sleep? Take time to think about it, my ass. Tiger and the others had decent equipment and techniques, so it was not difficult for them to suppress Whole of Windcloud. However, Whole of Windcloud was the boss, so they did not dare to kill him. Just when everyone was at a loss as to what to do, Mouse suddenly appeared in front of Tiger and Heavenly Windcloud. Seeing that they were pulling at each other, Rat was dumbfounded. What's going on? I've only been gone for a short while, and you're already fighting? Tiger was sweating profusely as he replied, Boss is going to fight with Chuanjin. Boss, quickly come and persuade him. You guys know about it too? Hearing Tiger's words, Mouse asked in surprise. Know about what? However, when Mouse said this, the others were even more surprised. Mouse said the pink mist skill? I've already found it. Oh. Hearing Mouse's words, the whole of Windcloud immediately calmed down and asked, Tell me, what's up with that skill? Mouse said, I've just posted that the pink mist really does exist, and it has appeared more than once. Where has it appeared before? Obviously, compared to Chuanjin, who treated him like an idiot, the whole of Windcloud hated the bandits who stripped themselves naked more. Hearing that there was news of the bandits, the whole of Windcloud quickly threw Chuanjin's group to the side. Mouse said, Some say it's in Thunderstorm City, some say it's in God of War City. Moreover, every time this pink mist appears, Chuanjin's people are at the scene, so I suspect that this pink mist should be released by Chuanjin's people. Damn! After Mouse's analysis, everyone was shocked. Chuanjin? Why is it Chuanjin again? I'm just analyzing. Seeing the expression of his companions, Mouse hurriedly explained, Actually, this pink mist is related to the environment at the time. No one can be sure that this pink mist is released by Chuanjin. Damn it! At this moment, the whole of Windcloud rudely interrupted Mouse's words. It must be those guys. So it's that group of bastards. I was wondering why they were so kind to return the stamp. Question mark. Mouse was confused. Is there a connection between the two? Look at this. The whole of Windcloud casually shared his payment mission. Damn it. Seeing the whole of Windcloud's mission, Mouse was shocked. It's really them. The stamp was auctioned by Chuanjin's people, so Chuanjin's people naturally knew how fraudulent the stamp was. If it was someone else, there would be no reason for them to return the stamp. However, the bandits had decisively stuffed the stamp back, which meant that Tribulation was also very familiar with the stamp. Originally, Mouse was still wondering why the bandits would return the stamp, but when he saw the whole of Windcloud's mission, he immediately came to a realization. Not only did they take the stamp to be auctioned, but they even blocked the auction venue to snatch the stamp. What kind of people were they? They were just like the rumors, daring to do anything. That, Tiger thought for a while and asked, Should we bring some people to you, Hui Chang, to reason with it? Whether it was the whole of Windcloud, Mouse, Tiger, or the rest, they were not people who would swallow their anger. Since they had confirmed the culprit, there was no reason for them to swallow their anger. Reason? Mouse sneered. Do you think those guys are reasonable? This, Tiger was speechless. The people of the Chuanjin sect were all unreasonable things. Arguing with them was just a joke. Furthermore, Mouse continued, Yu Huicheng is Chuanjin's territory. Let's not talk about the fact that our world alliance has fewer people than Chuanjin. Even if we were a guild with tens of thousands of people, Wouldn't it be courting death to go to Yuhuicheng? Don't forget, that is the city that won against the entire light faction in a battle. Then what should we do? At this moment, the whole of Windcloud had calmed down. After weighing Mouse's words, he asked sullenly. Mouse thought for a while and said indifferently, "A gentleman fights with his wits, not his strength. Since we can't go to Yuhuicheng to teach them a lesson, let them come to us." "What if they don't come?" the whole of Windcloud asked. Chapter 1068. Although Chuanjin's group had their own professions, they were as punctual as going to work when they played the game. It was not even 8 o'clock the next morning, and everyone went online early. When they went online again, Chuanjin's group had already followed the airship to Yuhuicheng. As Wang Yu had gone offline at the entrance of the auction venue yesterday, he was still in Freedom Cities when he went online. After the auction, there were fewer players in Freedom Cities than yesterday. What made Wang Yu feel a little strange was that there were not many people on both sides of the streets of Freedom Cities, which were originally full of mercenaries. The mercenaries on the streets were one of the characteristics of Freedom Cities, just like the densely packed guards. The sudden absence of these people made Wang Yu feel as if he had transmigrated back to Yuhuicheng. Of course, Wang Yu was not a native of Freedom Cities, so he did not know that the people here had a habit of working and resting. Therefore, he did not take these changes to heart. He was only a little surprised and ran to the port on his own. The people of Chuanjin were still waiting for him to clear the dungeon. Dungeons were rich in experience points and had a high yield of equipment and materials. It was one of the main ways for players to level up and get treasures. Naturally, Chuanjin's group was no exception. Since the launch of the game, clearing the dungeon 2 hours before going online every day had become one of Chuanjin's daily routines. After clearing the dungeon, it was time for everyone to move around freely. As Wang Yu was delayed by an hour today, it was already past 11 o'clock when everyone finished clearing the dungeon. After clearing the last dungeon, everyone was teleported out of the dungeon. Wuji habitually called out, "Does anyone want to have a drink or two?" Without waiting for Wuji to finish, everyone replied in unison, "No, get lost." Their cooperation was so high that the passers-by at the entrance of the dungeon were dumbfounded. One after another, they evaded and said, "These are Chuanjin's people. Everyone make way." Yu Huiqing knew that Chuanjin would have this strange line of dialogue every day after clearing a dungeon. It could not be helped. Wuji's drinking skills were maxed out. Up until now, those who drank with him had never seen him fork out any money. As time went by, whenever Wuji asked for a drink after clearing a dungeon, the crowd's fierce refusal had become a fixed ending of Chuanjin, similar to class dismissed or goodbye, teacher. Although Wuji was criticized every day, he still enjoyed it. Sometimes, if he didn't get criticized, he wouldn't be used to it. It seemed that Wuji's cheap nature was ingrained in his bones. However, just as everyone was preparing to farm monsters and fight, steal, the boss, Wuji suddenly received a message. Wuji casually opened it and saw that it was from the whole of Windcloud. "Brother Wuji, where are you now?" Seeing the message from the whole of Windcloud, Wuji frowned slightly and thought to himself, "Night owls don't come without a reason. Could it be that the whole of Windcloud is asking for an explanation about the seal? That can't be right. He should be looking for Iron Ox. Could it be that he already knows about the robbery yesterday?" Thinking of this, Wuji casually replied, "Dungeon clearing, what's the matter?" "Yes." The whole of Windcloud said, "Do you have any more gold coins?" "I want to buy some." "So you want to buy gold coins?" Seeing the message from the whole of Windcloud, Wuji could not help but be happy. He then symbolically asked, "Didn't you just buy 2 million gold coins yesterday? Why did you buy it again?" When the whole of Windcloud received the message from Wuji, he could not help but clench his fists and his face turned green. "Damn, why did you buy it?" Seeing the whole of Windcloud's expression, Mouse hurriedly said, "Young Master Feng, watch your attitude." The whole of Windcloud was speechless for a moment. He calmly replied to Wuji, "Sigh, Brother Wuji, don't you know that it's not easy to be a city lord? Wasn't Sky Dragon City destroyed? I used the remaining 1 million gold coins to repair the city." It had to be said that Mouse was also a scheming fellow. If the whole of Windcloud had said that he wanted to buy gold coins, with Wuji's suspicious nature, he would definitely not be fooled. However, if the whole of Windcloud casually mentioned the fact that he was cheated, it would instead avoid the main point and focus on the trivial. It would divert Wuji's attention from the robbery incident and cause him to let down his guard against the whole of Windcloud. As expected, when Wuji saw the message from the whole of Windcloud, he could not help but smile. He then pretended to know nothing and said, "Oh, is that so? Fortunately, we didn't use that thing. I didn't expect the system to be so deceptive. Damn, he's too good at pretending." Seeing Wuji's innocent tone, the whole of Windcloud was once again agitated. "Attitude! Attitude!" Mouse shouted from the side. The whole of Windcloud suppressed his anger and said, "Yeah, it's too deceptive. So, how many gold coins does Brother Wuji have now?" "Gold coins." Wuji paused for a moment and said, "It was put up on the trading website yesterday. Master Phone can buy it online." Wuji was not lying. The auction yesterday had caused the gold coins market to be empty. It was basically a cut-off from the supply. The people from Xuanzhen who liked to take advantage of loopholes would naturally not give up on such a good opportunity to exchange gold coins for RMB. Therefore, after they went offline last night, everyone put up their gold coins on the website. However, everyone understood the principle of hunger marketing. In order to sell at a high price, they did not put up too many gold coins at once. Therefore, the people from Xuanzhen still had a reserve of gold coins. The reason why Wuji said this was because he knew that although the whole of Windcloud was not lacking in money, he was not broad-minded. The trading fees on the website were so high. Since this fellow was able to trade face-to-face, he naturally would not let others take a commission. This way, everyone could earn more. Buy it online. It's better for you to earn the commission fee than to let others earn it. Just as Wuji expected, the whole of Windcloud heard Wuji's words and said awkwardly, "Why don't we trade face-to-face? This isn't safe." Wuji pretended to be worried and said, although gold coins would not be destroyed, the only way to exchange game coins for RMB was through the consignment shop. Private transactions were not a channel. Naturally, tax evasion would not be protected by the system. The whole of Windcloud transaction was not a small amount. With so much money, if one party paid and did not deliver the goods or did not pay after delivering the goods, the system would not care. Seeing that Wuji was in a difficult position, the whole of Windcloud said, Brother Wuji, it's not like we haven't traded before. Don't you know what kind of person I am? Why don't I pay first and you deliver the goods later?" "Haha." Wuji laughed and said, "Master Phone, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't I trust you? Such a large amount of money is not a small amount for us commoners. It's inevitable that I'm worried. Since you're so sincere, it's not right for me to not express my gratitude. However, the price. Old rules, 170. How about 160 for more than 2 million? The whole of Windcloud said generously. Hee. Wuji laughed and said, "Master Phone is indeed generous. It's a deal. Of course, we're not lacking in money." The whole of Windcloud said proudly, "Then give me your coordinates. I'll head over after I finish farming." Chapter 1069. F***CK. He's really coming over? Looking at Wuji's message, the world of Windcloud was surprised and overjoyed. Disbelief was written all over his face. The world of Windcloud's ambush was set up in Heavenly Dragon City. Naturally, they would not go to Huicheng to trade with Wuji. Although the world of Windcloud said that he would go over, the world of Windcloud's heart almost jumped out of his chest when he said that. He was afraid that Wuji would agree to it. Seeing that Wuji wanted to come to Heavenly Dragon City, the world of Windcloud was surprised and excited. Facing the world of Windcloud's surprised expression, Rat smiled faintly and said, "Humph." As expected, Rat and his gang had fought with Xuanzhen yesterday, so Rat knew better than anyone else how powerful Xuanzhen's group was. Such an opponent would definitely be cautious with his words and actions at all times. The reason why he asked the world of Windcloud to go to Huicheng was to completely dispel Wuji's doubts. This was called loosening the reins only to grasp better. Of course, Rao was not afraid that Wuji would not come. After all, for experts like Xuanjin, time was money. Of course, they would not foolishly wait for the world of Wind Cloud to finish farming before flying over. After hanging up the message with the world of Wind Cloud, Wuji asked again, "Are you going for a drink? It's my treat." Wuji was not the kind of person who would easily trust strangers. Although the world of Wind Cloud seemed to be very sincere, Wuji knew what Xuanjin had done, especially since the world of Wind Cloud had already used the Castellan seal. As long as he thought about it, he might be able to figure out who the robber was from Ming Jian Daoshua's attitude towards the seal. However, since it involved benefits, Wuji was more willing to trust the world of Wind Cloud. Bringing along Xuanjin's men was just a precaution. One must know that the underlings of the world of Wind Cloud were not easy to deal with. Only Wang Yu would go alone. No. What did you say? When they heard Wuji asking if they were going for a drink, they were about to scold him again. However, when they heard the words, "my treat," they immediately reacted. "It's my treat. Do you want to go?" Wuji asked with a smile. "Nonsense. Since you're treating, of course we'll go." Hearing that Wuji was going to bleed, everyone's attitude was the same, and they decided to make a killing off Wuji. "Let's go. Let's go to Heavenly Dragon City," Wuji said with a smile. Tisk. Hearing this, everyone could not help but curl their lips. Mingdu said disdainfully, "Do we need to go to Heavenly Dragon City to treat? Don't tell me you're trying to present Buddha with borrowed flowers again?" "Hee. Are you going or not?" Wuji chuckled and declined to comment. "Screw you. I'm not trying to kill you. Whoever wants to go can go." Everyone pointed their middle fingers at Wuji. Wuji sighed and said, "There's a sugar daddy buying gold coins. I don't have enough gold coins on me. Since you guys aren't going, I can't do anything about it." "Wuji, what did you say just now?" Hearing Wuji's words, everyone was slightly stunned and hurried over. Chun Xiang even called Wuji brother in a Hong Kong and Taiwanese accent. It was so disgusting that they wanted to vomit. Wuji said, "There's a sugar daddy buying gold coins. I don't have enough." "No," the first sentence, Chun Xiang said again. "So, are we going or not?" "Yes. Of course we're going," Chun Xiang said righteously. "It's my honor to drink with big brother Wuji." "Screw you, Chun Xiang. How can you say that?" Mingdu glared at the shameless Chun Xiang, then hugged Wuji's arm and said, "Master Wuji, I'll kneel before you. Bring me along." "Damn, so cheap." Everyone covered their faces and sighed. The distance between Sky Dragon City and Yuhuicheng was not far. Half an hour later, Xuanjin's group arrived at the port of Sky Dragon City. Because the sugar daddy, whole Wind Cloud, paid for the reconstruction, Sky Dragon City was restored to its original bustling state in night. It was true that the system was usually a scammer, but it was very efficient when it was paid. Not to mention rebuilding a main city in a night. Even if the continent of rebirth was destroyed in a night, referring to the destruction of the Arad continent, everyone could only curse at it. It was the system. After getting off the airship, Wang Yu could not help but exclaim, I've only left for less than 2 days, and there's such a huge change." "Is there any change? Isn't it the same as before?" Mingdu looked around and mumbled. The others nodded in agreement. For those who had not witnessed the destruction of Sky Dragon City, they were just revisiting the place. The scenery was still the same. Wang Yu naturally would not argue with them. Instead, he asked Wuji, "Where are we going now?" "Sky Dragon Hotel. Do you know the way?" Wuji looked at the address given by Whole Wind Cloud and asked. Wang Yu said, "Of course I know the way. It was opened during the apocalypse. Dugu Jiuqiang even treated me to a meal there." TSK, TSK. The Xuanjin people sighed, as expected of Master Nyo. Even Lone Dog follows the heart treated you to a meal. "Keep it low-key." Wang Yu pressed his hands down, indicating for everyone to be humble. "Umph." Wuji's face darkened. He snorted and walked out of the port. "What's wrong with this grandson?" Wang Yu saw that Wuji was suddenly in a bad mood, so he asked in confusion, "What can it be?" "He's jealous. He and Lone Dog follows the heart are old rivals in love." Mingdu began to expose Wuji's dark history. Really? Really? Who does he like? Is it a man or a woman? Yang Na's face was full of gossip. About this, I'll tell you if you give me 100 gold coins. Huh, Aya, how could you be so ruthless? Sky Dragon City was destroyed and the native players scattered. Compared to the lively Yu Hui Chung, the current Sky Dragon City was empty. The air was abnormally quiet. Xuanzhen's group walked on the streets, and they felt like they had entered a ghost town. It was especially so for Wang Yu. She could vaguely feel an uncomfortable aura. It wasn't a murderous aura, it was the feeling of being stared at. However, there was no one on the street. Anyway, it made her feel uncomfortable. When everyone arrived at the Sky Dragon Hotel, the world of Windcloud had yet to arrive. However, there were many people in the hotel, forming a sharp contrast with the empty streets of Sky Dragon City. Xuanzhen's group came with the intention of robbing Wuji. Seeing that the world of Windcloud had yet to arrive, these shameless fellows chuckled and began to order a table full of food and wine. They began to eat and drink to their heart's content, attracting the attention of the other customers in the hotel. Wuji couldn't help but feel sad for Xuanzhen's bad friends. He whispered to the boss, "The world of Windcloud will be here soon. We're his guests, so put the money on his tab." After 3 rounds of wine and 5 dishes, when Xuanzhen's group was almost done eating, the world of Windcloud finally arrived with a group of subordinates. Chapter 1071. Yeah. The members of Xuanzhen did not doubt Wang Yu's senses. They were shocked when they saw Wang Yu's message. When they turned around, they saw that the whole wind cloud had already arrived behind them. Heavenly Wind Cloud put on a fake smile as he glared at the Xuanzhen members. Behind Heavenly Wind Cloud stood a group of hostile players. The assassin with a dagger, the warrior with a tower shield, and a few other members of Xuanzhen were no strangers. They were Rat, Tiger, and the others who they had fought yesterday. Behind them, there were 5 to 6 players who were similarly well-equipped and looked very valiant. Seeing that the other party was hostile, the members of Xuanzhen placed their hands on their weapons. At that moment, Wuji stood up with a smile. "Aya, young Master Feng, you're finally here." "Oomph." The whole wind cloud snorted. "Cut the crap. How are we going to settle the bill?" "Ha." Wuji laughed. "That depends on how much you want. If it's more than 10 million, I'll give you a 150 ratio. 10 million? Hee hee." Before Wuji could finish his sentence, the whole wind cloud sneered. "Don't play dumb with me. You know that's not what I meant." "Oh." Wuji pretended to be confused. "Then what do you mean, Boss Wind Cloud?" "Stop playing dumb." The whole wind cloud said. "Do you need me to tell you what you did in the free cities yesterday? How dare you rob me? Don't tell me that Xuanzhen has never died before." "Oh." Wuji smiled thoughtfully. "Boss Feng Yun needs evidence to do things." "Evidence?" At that moment, Rat stood up and pointed at the whole wind cloud. "Young Master Feng's Castellan seal and your skills are evidence. Are you still trying to deny it?" "Deny it?" "Hee hee." Wuji laughed and said, "We have never denied it." "You." Hearing Wuji's words, Great Wind Cloud World was enraged. "Meow. I've seen shameless people before, but I've never seen someone this shameless." After snatching the equipment, he still had the attitude of "what can you do to me?" as if it was a matter of course. Was this guy's face made of cowhide or iron? If it wasn't for the fact that the drop rate of equipment in the game was too low, and that they would not be able to obtain all the equipment that Xuanzhen had stolen in one go, whole of Wind Cloud would have given the order to attack. "Don't be so arrogant." Heavenly Wind Cloud paused for a moment and said, "This is Heavenly Dragon City, my territory. It's not Yu Hui Chung. I'll give you 2 choices now. Either return the equipment and pay me 2 million gold, or stop it." Before the whole of Wind Cloud could say the second option, Wuji waved his hand and said with a smile, "Xuanzhen is nicknamed the Piggy Bank. There's no reason for us to spit out what we've swallowed. F*CK, I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. That's my equipment. Why don't you return it?" Whole of Wind Cloud was enraged. He drew his weapon and pointed it at Wuji's nose. "Oomph." Faced with the weapon pointed at Whole of Wind Cloud's nose, Wuji was not afraid at all. Instead, he sneered and said, "Boss Windcloud, have you never played games before? Bullying the weak, stealing equipment, and stealing bosses are the most basic principles in the game world. I used a system skill to steal your equipment, which is reasonable and in line with the rules of the game. Don't you agree? Don't tell me you've never done this before." Ugh. As soon as Wuji said this, whole of Windcloud's group, who were initially aggressive, became speechless. That's right. Gaming has always been a competitive sport, and the game world was a world where the strong ruled. As long as I'm stronger than you, I'll be able to occupy the best resources and equipment. There are only things that I don't like, but there's nothing that I can't snatch. It was just like in a MOBA game where the player's equipment was at level 18. Stealing troops, blue tanks, and wild areas, killing them to earn money was a basic social virtue. If one were to use the thinking of the real world, wouldn't one have to go over and give the opponent a few branches and jars when they were pitifully trying to replenish their troops? Even in an RPG game like Rebirth, everyone had to agree to the PK rules on the login screen before starting the game. Therefore, as long as one used their in-game skills and did not cheat others, it would be in line with the rules of the game. Even though the whole of Windcloud and the others appeared to be in the right, they had played the game for a long time. The number of murders and robberies they had done was no less than that of the complete reality sect. If they were to argue based on reason, would this still be a game? Currently, Chuanjin was stronger than whole of Windcloud's group, so there was no reason for them to return the equipment. Furthermore, whole of Windcloud was not a kind person. Even if Chuanjin chose to return the equipment and compensate whole of Windcloud, would whole of Windcloud let Chuanjin's people go? Stop joking. What kind of person was Wuji? Was it not enough for him to be cheated by whole of Windcloud once? This kid most likely wanted to trick the thing back, and then it was Chuanjin's turn to teach it 8 or 10 times. Then, Boss Wuji, what do you want us to do in order to return the equipment? Mouse crossed his arms and asked. That's a good question. Wuji snapped his fingers and said, "It's simple, buy it back with money. I know Boss Windcloud doesn't have any gold coins, so I came here personally. We can trade with cash. Don't worry, although Chuanjin has been misunderstood, we still have a good reputation. If you don't believe me, you can ask Sky Dragon City's Dugu Jiu Qiang. What if we don't want to buy it?" Mouse asked with a dark expression. "It's fine if you don't want to buy it." Wuji laughed and said, "As long as you can snatch the equipment back from us, we have nothing to say." Xing. As soon as Wuji finished speaking, everyone behind Mouse pulled out their weapons. Mouse narrowed his eyes and stared at Wuji and said, "It's true that Chuanjin has a great reputation, but we, the 12 stars, are not to be trifled with. Boss Wuji, are you looking down on us?" F***CK. So they're the 12 stars? I didn't expect the 12 stars to be holed up in this place. When the surrounding players heard that whole of Windcloud's opponent was Chuanjin, they remained calm, as if it was within their expectations. However, when they heard Mouse's words, they could not help but look at him. Even the people from the Quanjun sect revealed surprised expressions. The 12 stars corresponded to the 12 earthly zodiac. These guys were originally a very strong professional team, and they had even won the national championship a long time ago. Later on, they retired due to their age. However, other than playing games, they did not have any other skills. After retiring, they had been active in the game, and they were also an extremely famous small team. In Rebirth, this group of people had disappeared for a while, and everyone thought that they had stopped playing games. Who would have thought that this group of people was actually reading books with the prince? Chapter 1072. A sudden silence was the most frightening thing. In an instant, all the players in the tavern quieted down. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and saw Wang Yu sitting there with a chicken drumstick in his hand. His face was full of confusion. It was unknown whether he was confused about what the 12 stars were or confused about why everyone was suddenly quiet. Seeing that the voice came from the group of people from the Quanjun sect, everyone was relieved. The arrogance of the people from the Quanjun sect was well known. Let alone a mere 12 constellations. Even if the 28 constellations were here, this group of people would still ridicule them. Of course, only the people from Chuanjin knew that Wang Yu wasn't ridiculing them. He really didn't know. As a true gaming noob, Wang Yu even lacked basic gaming knowledge. He knew that this kind of outdated internet celebrity was a bit difficult for him. Wuji helplessly turned his head and said, "Big brother, watch your words. The 12 stars is not a thing." Wuji's mouth was so sharp. Wang Yu's words were unintentional, but Wuji's was purely intentional. Everyone wasn't stupid. They naturally understood the meaning behind Wuji's words. Rat and the other's eyes were red. No matter what, 12 Constellations was still an expert, and he had made a name for himself in various competitions. Let alone ordinary players and motley crew like the Quanjin sect. Even people in the professional circle would have to address 12 Constellations as seniors when they heard his name. Now that they were being ridiculed after announcing their names, how could this group of people tolerate it? Mother of Asterisk Kerr, who do you think you are? How dare you look down on us? At this moment, an assassin behind Rat cursed. He raised his dagger and stabbed at Wuji. Hee. Seeing that the assassin was about to slash at Wuji's neck, Wuji smiled and calmly took a step back. Shwa. At this moment, a piercing sound could be heard as a concealed weapon flew towards the assassin from behind Wuji. Seeing this, the assassin was shocked and hurriedly braked. His empty left hand reached out and caught the hidden weapon that was flying towards him. Ha ha ha. At the same time, the people from Chuanjin laughed loudly. The surrounding players also held back their laughter, their faces turning red. A line of questions appeared above the assassin's head. He quickly lowered his head and realized that he was holding half a chicken drumstick. Seeing that he was tricked, the assassin was about to get angry, but he suddenly felt his vision darken. He saw a tall and sturdy man standing between him and Wuji. It was Wang Yu, the one who mocked the 12 stars. That assassin had met Wang Yu before when he was with Feng Yin Tian, so he knew who Wang Yu was. He wasn't a picky eater, so he thought that even if he couldn't catch Wuji, it would be fine if he could catch Iron Bull. Hence, he raised his dagger and was about to stab Wang Yu. However, before the assassin could raise his dagger, Wang Yu smiled and said, "Don't be shy. Eat it." As she said that, Wang Yu stretched out her left hand and pinched the assassin's cheek. The assassin reflexively opened his mouth wide. At the same time, Wang Yu's right hand grabbed the assassin's left hand and forcefully shoved the remaining half of the drumstick in the assassin's hand into his mouth. Then, Wang Yu pushed with both hands. The assassin was thrown out like a sandbag and fell heavily on a table a few meters away, smashing it into pieces. Big Dragon. The assassin's code name was Fifth Dragon. Although his ranking was low, it could be seen from his code name that he was definitely one of the best in the 12 stars. As Fifth Dragon's companions, the 12 stars naturally knew Fifth Dragon's strength better than others. When they saw Fifth Dragon being sent flying in one move, they cried out involuntarily. Everyone had heard that Wang Yu's strength was unfathomable, and that he was known as the world's #1 Grandmaster of Combat. Initially, they thought that it was an exaggeration from the players who had never seen a real expert, but who would have thought that he was indeed extraordinary. Not to mention anything else, just the ability to casually throw Fifth Dragon away was something that no one else could compare to. Thinking about this, the 12 stars, who originally wanted to use force to force Chuanjin's group to submit, could not help but give up on this idea. What a joke! The boss was the one at a disadvantage, but the reputation was theirs. The 12 stars were not young anymore, and they still relied on this reputation to make a living. Who would be so reckless as to go up and embarrass themselves? Wuji stood behind Wang Yu. Seeing that the 12 stars, who were originally imposing, were terrified, he jumped up and down and shouted, "I'm sorry. I'm looking down on you." So what? The members of the 12 Constellations looked at Wuji and then looked at Wang Yu, who was standing in front of Wuji. Their expressions were extremely complicated. What a despicable person. If it wasn't for this abnormal Grandmaster of Combat, would you, a priest, be so arrogant? The tavern owners saw that the two groups of people were fighting and that their tables and chairs were smashed. He was on the verge of crying. He quickly came up and advised, "Young Master Feng, for the sake of the apocalypse, "Don't cause trouble here." The tavern owner did not know how to read the situation. The world of Windcloud was in a rage and had yet to vent his anger. Using the apocalypse to scare him at this time was purely asking for trouble. Without waiting for the tavern owner to finish his sentence, the world of Windcloud slashed to the tavern owner's neck. Confucius once said, "How many experts can there be in a game?" The tavern owner was a life skill player. He was only level 10, so how could he withstand the world of Windcloud slash? He turned into white light on the spot. After killing the tavern owner, the world of Windcloud stepped on the table and shouted, "The apocalypse is nothing. Dragon City belongs to me, and I'm here to cause trouble. If you don't like it, you can get lost." After saying that, the world of Windcloud pointed at Xuanzhen and said, "Chop these bastards up for me." From a conversation between the world of Windcloud and Xuanzhen, Wang Yu could guess what Xuanzhen had done. If the person being robbed was someone else, Wang Yu would definitely not associate himself with this group of scum. However, if it was the world of Windcloud, then it was a different story. Seeing that the world of Windcloud's 12 constellations were eager to attack, Wang Yu casually extended his hand and switched his glove to his staff. He looked at the world of Windcloud with a displeased expression and said, "With just you guys? What do you think?" The world of Windcloud surveyed the surroundings as he spoke. At the same time, all the players in the tavern drew their weapons and surrounded Xuanzhen. "How is it? Is this enough?" The world of Windcloud asked provocatively. The Heavenly Storms group had also fought against the Xuanzhen sect before. They knew that the Xuanzhen sect's members were not weak. Since they wanted to capture the Xuanzhen sect's members alive, they naturally wouldn't dare to trap them with just a few people. The players in the tavern were professional mercenaries that Whole of Windcloud had hired from the free cities. Every one of them was a veteran PvP expert. With these people as their helpers, Whole of Windcloud didn't believe that the Quanzhun sect would be able to escape. "Everyone go. Capture one alive for 1,000 gold. Kill one for 100 gold. Mercenary fees will be calculated separately." The next moment, the world of Windcloud waved his hand and gave an order to the surrounding players. Chapter 1073. As the saying goes, there will always be brave men with great rewards. 100 gold coins or 1,000 gold coins may be a small sum to Whole of Windcloud and Quanzhun, but it was a huge sum of money to these mercenaries. It was true that Wang Yu's group was strong, but with so many people around, even ants could bite an elephant to death. Moreover, none of them were weak. Even if they were killed, they would only lose 10% of their experience, which was nothing compared to the amount of gold coins. Following Whole of Windcloud's command, everyone raised their weapons and pounced forward. The average level of the current players was above level 40. They were no longer weak level 10 or 20. Everyone's skills and equipment had been perfected, and they were already familiar with their classes. These mercenaries, who had been PvP for a long time, were extremely compatible with their characters and their party. Their attacks were extremely coordinated. With so many mercenaries attacking at the same time, even an expert like Wang Yu would not take them head-on. Seeing everyone charging over, Wang Yu calmly jumped back. At this moment, Chun Xiang raised his hand, and a black barrier rose around Xuanzhen's group. Darkness barrier. Chun Xiang already had many equipment that reduced casting prerequisites. After awakening, Darkness barrier's casting speed was almost instantaneous. Bang! Bang! A series of muffled sounds could be heard. The players at the front seemed to have run into a wall and were blocked by Chun Xiang's Darkness barrier. Of course, Darkness barrier could only block the attacks of melee classes. The attacks of ranged classes were somewhat limited. However, Chun Xiang was a professional troublemaker for the Xuanzhen sect, so he had more experience in dealing with ganging up on others than anyone else in the room. When the Darkness barrier rose, Chun Xiang's 6 demons were also summoned. They stood behind the Quanzhun group. Duong. At the same time, Yin Lao Air rushed to the front and smashed down with a shield. He formed a circle with Chun Xiang's demons, protecting Xuanzhen's group in the center. Open a path. Wuji snapped his fingers and gave Bao San and to place one's pride and invincibility buff. The two of them rushed out, one on the left and the other on the right. Breaking Army, Rising Dragon Slash, Gale Flash Hellish Slash, Flash Chain Kick, Triple Thunderbolt Kick. There was a massive difference in attributes between awakened and unawakened players. With powerful awakening skills, these unawakened mercenaries couldn't even stand up straight under Bao San and to place one's pride's assault. The beautiful skill's special effect brought about a white light, and the encirclement was directly blasted open into two gaps. Quan Jun and the others followed behind them and killed their way to the door. The whole of Wind Cloud's original intention was to close the door and beat the dogs. They wanted to trap Chuanjin's group inside, so naturally, they had the most manpower at the entrance. To place one's pride and Bao San's skills were already on cooldown. It would be difficult for them to break through without using their ultimate skills. Anyone who stands in my way will die. At that time, Mingdu let out an angry roar, and streaks of blazing flames and lightning descended from the sky, heading straight for the door. Mingdu's damage had always been the highest among Quan Jun's members. Moreover, he liked to go to extremes, increasing his lightning and fire attributes to nearly 200 points. Now that he had awakened them, all of his attributes had doubled again. His damage was so high that even Wang Yu couldn't match up to him in this kind of group fight. Those who stand in my way will die was definitely not a bluff. Mingdu's AoE spell instantly cleared out the mercenaries at the entrance. The tanks who were lucky enough to survive were now in critical health. Before these people could rejoice, famous Sword Dao Xue and Bai Ming Yu had already snuck up behind them. With a swing of their swords, they completely cleared out the roadblock. Following that, Quan Jun's members left the tavern. However, when they left the tavern, they were immediately stunned. The street outside the tavern was filled with players. As far as the eye could see, the entire street was completely blocked by a black mass of players. These players all had fierce expressions and murderous expressions. Their clothing style was basically similar to the players in the tavern. Obviously, these guys were the same as the players in the tavern. They were all hired by Whole Wind Cloud. No wonder there weren't any mercenaries on the streets of the free cities today. They had all been hired by Whole Wind Cloud. It was unknown whether Whole Wind Cloud thought highly of Chuanjin or if they were blinded by hatred. They had actually hired so many players just to capture a dozen or so people. Setting aside everything else, with so many players traveling to and fro, just the plane tickets alone would be a huge expense. Seeing so many opponents, Mingdu couldn't help but exclaim, "Damn, Whole Wind Cloud is really rich." Wuji sneered, "He's not rich at all. Right now, all the gold coins on the website belong to us. The more people we hire, the more we earn." TSK. Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but sigh. At this time, Wuji was still thinking about earning money. He was truly a role model of our generation. While Quan Jun's members were talking, Whole Wind Cloud and the 12 constellations came out of the tavern. Whole Wind Cloud smiled proudly. "How was it, everyone? Did you have fun killing just now? You must have quite a lot of PK points." The higher the PK points, the higher the drop rate of players. In the battle just now, Chuanjin's group had killed a total of 70 to 80 people in the tavern. On average, almost everyone had 7 or 8 PK points. If Chuanjin's group were to be killed now, they would definitely drop everything. It seemed like Whole Wind Cloud also knew that Chuanjin's group wasn't easy to capture. Even if they were captured alive, they wouldn't surrender. Instead of wasting their breath, it was more practical to use PK points to trick people. At this moment, Wuji smiled faintly and said, "Yes, you have a lot of PK points, but so what?" Following which, Wuji said in the guild channel, "Old cow, in this situation, only you can escape. We'll buy you some time. You run first." Quanjin's group was smart. At this moment, they naturally saw through Whole Wind Cloud's despicable tactics. Right now, the entire street was blocked. If they wanted to escape, the only way out was to go to the upper room. However, there were too many enemies. Under the encirclement of so many people, if not for Wang Yu's nimble skills, Even Mingdu, who could teleport, would have been shot to death on the roof. Now, everyone could be said to have fallen into a stalemate. Rather than everyone dying, it was better to let the person who had the highest chance of escape and minimize the losses. At that moment, whole wind cloud said again, "What do you think? As long as you die, all the equipment on you will be mine. I'm a man of the rules, right?" "Yes, you are." Without waiting for Wuji to reply, Wang Yu, who had been looking around, suddenly said, "But you have to be able to kill us first." Chapter 1074. F***CK. Old cow, are you retarded? Wuji was shocked by Wang Yu's words. He kicked Wang Yu angrily. This was a game, not reality. Human lives were worthless here. Under such circumstances, it was natural to run if possible. Saying that they would live and die together was simply retarded. F***CKU. Wang Yu grabbed Wuji and threw him at the entrance of the tavern. He then shouted to the rest of Chuanjin, "Kill our way in. Go in." Everyone was stunned when they heard Wang Yu's words. Now that the tavern was surrounded by people, what could they do even if they went in? Even if they could rely on the terrain of the tavern to resist the attacks of the mercenaries, they were in the city and not the outskirts. Once the PK points reached a certain amount, they would be dead when the guards came out. Chuanjin's greatest strength was that they were willing to listen to advice. Although they did not know what Wang Yu meant, they did not say anything. Yin Lao Air and Bao San followed behind Wuji. They lowered their heads and charged forward, knocking away the world of Wind Cloud and the 12 constellations before returning to the tavern. Is this what they mean by being driven into a dead end? The world of Wind Cloud was dumbfounded when he saw Chuanjin's men suddenly turn back. He had imagined all sorts of endings, but he did not expect Chuanjin's men to return. Since Chuanjin had entered a dead end, they would catch a turtle in a jar. Thinking of this, the world of Wind Cloud waved his hand and pointed at the tavern. "Go in, don't leave anyone alive." However, at this moment, Wang Yu's figure flashed and blocked the entrance of the tavern. Wang Yu had a burly figure and an indifferent look in his eyes. He stretched out one hand and placed the other behind his back. His kung fu clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. He stood there like a mountain, displaying the demeanor of a martial arts master. Aura had always been a very mysterious thing. Originally, no one believed that anyone's aura in the game could affect one's performance. However, looking at Wang Yu's appearance, no one dared to move forward for some reason. At that time, Wang Yu activated his fist aura mode and lightly swung his fingers down like a knife. The wind from his palm drew a line 2 meters away from the entrance of the tavern. Then, Wang Yu raised his head and calmly said to everyone in front of him, "This is the line of life and death. Those who cross it die." The players at the entrance looked at Wang Yu, then at the line on the ground. They frowned and looked at the whole of Wind Cloud. Everyone had heard of Chuanjin and Wang Yu. They were well aware of the strength of their opponents. Just now, Chuanjin had easily broken through the encirclement of so many people, fully demonstrating what it meant to have a great reputation. As for Wang Yu, he had many more titles, such as the world's #1 Grandmaster of Combat, the world's #1 Expert, the God Slayer, the only player Castellan, who had led people to successfully repel the Church of Light's crusade, and was unrivaled in the world. It would be a lie to say that they did not feel guilty in the face of such a legendary expert. Now that Wang Yu had drawn the line of life and death, no one dared to stand out. After all, they were all mercenaries. If they could slack off when they were paid, who would really risk their lives? If they were to be hated by such a person, how could they continue playing the game in the future? Seeing that Wang Yu had easily intimidated everyone, the whole of Wind Cloud was instantly enraged. He pointed at Wang Yu and shouted at everyone, "Mother of Asterisk-Cur, what's there to be afraid of? Long-range players, attack him. I'll give 10,000 gold to whoever can kill him." 10,000 gold! The mercenaries were shocked when they heard this. What was the concept of 10,000 gold? If converted to RMB, it was 500,000 gold, which was the income of an ordinary person for 5 years. As long as they killed this person in front of them, they would have to struggle for 5 years less. Where else could they find such a good deal? In the face of money, there was no such thing as fear. Mother asterisk cur, let's do it. Thinking of this, everyone immediately charged forward under the cover of long-range firepower. Looking at the fearless players, Wang Yu narrowed his eyes and put on his mask. With a shield in one hand and a sword in the other, he leaned against the entrance of the tavern and fought against the charging players. These mercenaries were not companions, so they did not have good teamwork. Wang Yu held the celestial shield and weaved in between the players, unafraid of long-range attacks. Moreover, the entrance of the tavern was only so big. Apart from the long-range players at the back, there were only a few people who could actually fight with Wang Yu at the same time. Of course, they could not do anything to Wang Yu. Wang Yu lowered his body and raised his shield to protect his vitals. He used the front line of melee players to block the line of sight of the long-range players behind him. At the same time, he stabbed and slashed with his sword. Every time he attacked, there would be streaks of white light. No matter how hard the mercenaries charged, no one could cross the line on the ground. Seeing Wang Yu's ferocity, the whole of Windcloud's face turned green. While he was shocked, he shouted, "Kill, kill, the guard will be here soon. The more you kill, the worse your death will be." However, the system seemed to be biased toward Wang Yu. After a few minutes, the mercenaries were on the verge of collapse from the mental and physical attacks, but the guards still did not arrive. There was no lack of imaginative players among the mercenaries. When they saw that Wang Yu had killed so many people, but the guards did not move at all, they could not help but exclaim, "Damn, he's so strong that even the system doesn't dare to do anything." Under certain circumstances, some nonsense could be taken seriously. Hearing such a guess, the players could not help but let their imaginations run wild. The person in front of them had killed a god. Wasn't the god in the game the system? Damn, no wonder. Even the system did not dare to do anything. What kind of person was this? Thinking of this, everyone could not help but tremble. Perhaps Wang Yu did not expect that his opponents would be scared to death just because he wore a mask with hidden attributes. F***CK. You guys think you can beat him like this? Attack together. At this moment, the whole of Windcloud anxiously shouted at everyone. The whole of Windcloud could see that Wang Yu's fighting skills were so high that he was on a completely different level compared to ordinary players. If they were to fight with Wang Yu, they would never be able to win in this lifetime. To deal with him, they had to rely on shameless methods such as hugging his thighs and bending his fingers. Since there was only one opponent, everyone charged forward without thinking. They did not believe that Wang Yu would be able to withstand the attacks. It had to be said that the whole of Windcloud was not a good-for-nothing other than being rich. This guy had a very sharp eye for people and found Wang Yu's weakness in an instant. That's right, Wang Yu's skills were all in his fighting skills. It was pure wishful thinking for everyone to think that they could defeat Wang Yu with their skills. Instead, the brainless method of swarming him was the simplest and most effective method. Perhaps this was the saying, "Great skill does not work." No matter what, the whole of Windcloud was the boss. Although everyone was extremely unwilling to fight with Wang Yu, it was the boss's order, so it was worth it for them to charge forward. Chapter 1075. It's toppling the mountains and overturning the seas. Has old cow gone mad? The Chuanjin players in the tavern cried out in shock when they saw Wang Yu raise his hand and push out a huge wave. Toppling the mountains and overturning the seas was definitely Wang Yu's AoE skill with the highest damage. Its power was unparalleled in the world. Even the Dragon Emperor, the #1 boss in the world, had been forced back by it. These normal players were naturally no match for it. However, everyone knew the repercussions of the skill. Their mana bars would be emptied. If there was only one enemy, Wang Yu wouldn't have to use this move. After all, no one would be able to withstand this attack. However, there were thousands of enemies outside the door. If this attack didn't kill all of them, Wang Yu would be in a dangerous situation. It should be known that Grandmasters of Combat were a class that interweaved their skills with normal attacks to perform combo attacks. They still consumed a lot of skills. No matter how skilled Wang Yu was, he was considered average by the system. Faced with so many enemies, without the high priority of his skills, he could only run away. However, just as everyone was worrying for Wang Yu, the huge wave that Wang Yu had just pushed out suddenly split into several water dragons that scattered in all directions. At the same time, a line of ancient Chinese characters appeared above Wang Yu. Profound meaning of subduing dragon. Shockwave of 100 miles. Shockwave of 100 miles definitely lived up to its name. When Wang Yu pushed out this palm, everyone was shocked. Everyone had seen many skills, but they had never seen a skill with such an arrogant special effect. They had also never seen a skill that was so flashy that the name of the skill would appear above one's head. Just as everyone was in shock, they heard a loud boom, boom. The water dragon crashed into the crowd with a loud sound. There was no doubt about the damage of subduing Dragon Palm. Wherever the huge wave went, there was white light. The players on the street were instantly cleared out. The density of the players was really high. With one palm, Wang Yu's PK points actually rose to 3 digits. The whole place was silent. Everyone's eyeballs popped out of their sockets, and their mouths were wide open. They had completely forgotten what they were here for. Meow, Wang Yu's palm had instantly killed 70 to 80 people. In the game, as long as the damage and attributes were high enough, a mage's AoE skills could also one-shot someone. However, the standard AoE skill range was only 500 meters, and the skill could only hit 20 people at most. However, not only did Wang Yu defeat 70 to 80 people with a wave of his hand, he was also a grandmaster of combat. This was hard to accept. What did 70 or 80 people mean? That was the number of people in a small guild, annihilating a guild with a single palm. Even he wouldn't believe it if he said it out loud. It was the first time for these mercenaries to be beaten to the point of questioning their own lives while playing a game. Is this the legendary dragon subduing palm? Not only the members of the whole of Windcloud, but the members of Qiuanjin were also dumbfounded. In the past, no matter how strong Wang Yu was, it was only because of his martial arts and control. However, this palm strike had killed 70 to 80 people. This was pure fantasy. This was a documentary online game. Wouldn't it be criticized if it was so realistic? At this moment, even Wang Yu was shocked by the effect of the dragon subduing palm. Wang Yu stared at his own hands, as if he couldn't believe that he was the one who had released the skill. Hearing the question from the Qiuanjin members, Wang Yu came back to his senses and quickly said, "That's right. This is the dragon subduing palm." As he spoke, Wang Yu released a buff on himself. Profound dragon subduing palm activated. MP consumption reduced by 100%, cooldown reduced by 90%, and all skills strengthened to profound dragon subduing. Duration, 120 seconds. F*CK. What the F*CK? After seeing the effect of the dragon subduing palm, the Qiuanjin members felt dizzy. The meaning of the 100% consumption and 90% cooldown reduction was obvious. It meant that there was no consumption and the cooldown was reduced to 10% of the original cooldown. The cooldown of Grandmasters of Combat skills had always been very short. Reducing the cooldown by 90% was basically equivalent to having no cooldown at all. With this kind of unlimited firepower buff, not to mention an expert like Wang Yu, any newbie would probably be able to go on a rampage. What was even more terrifying was that this effect could strengthen all of Wang Yu's skills to profound dragon subduing. No one knew exactly what kind of skills would be strengthened, but from the effect of Wang Yu's palm just now, it wasn't hard to tell that this F*King strengthened skill was definitely much more powerful than the original skill. Old cow, was that toppling the mountains and overturning the seas just now? Wu Ji asked in surprise. Yes. Wang Yu nodded. A few more. Mingdu clenched his fists and shouted, "Kill these bastards." No. Skill cooldown. Wang Yu shook his head. Everyone, the original cooldown of toppling the mountains and overturning the seas was too long. Even if it was reduced to 10%, it couldn't be used consecutively. Otherwise, why would Wang Yu need others to remind him? At this time, the whole of Windcloud also recovered from a shock. He pointed at Wang Yu and shouted, "What are you daydreaming about? Everyone attack." Ugh. When everyone heard this, they looked around, and their gazes finally landed on Wang Yu. When they saw Wang Yu's cold gaze and the line of life and death under his feet, everyone was shocked and subconsciously retreated. It couldn't be helped. Right now, Wang Yu was no longer a player in their eyes. There were more than 1,000 people here, and it would only be enough for him to flop a dozen times. It was better to stay as far away from such a dangerous person as possible. F***CK. Seeing that his subordinates were scared out of their wits by Wang Yu, the whole of Windcloud was furious. However, he couldn't do anything. It wasn't like he didn't see the power of Wang Yu's palm just now. Not to mention those mercenaries who took the money but didn't put in the effort. Even the whole of Windcloud himself was still scared. Let's go. Just when the whole of Windcloud was at a loss, his subordinates, the 12 constellations, volunteered. Seeing that the 12 constellations wanted to challenge Wang Yu, the whole of Windcloud asked worriedly, Will it be all right? Oomph. Rat coldly snorted and said, I don't believe that he can still use that move. Tiger, go. All right. Tiger received the order and raised the shield in his hand, aiming at Wang Yu and ramming it. The 12 constellations were experienced players in the gaming circle. Others were afraid of Wang Yu's terrifying damage, but the 12 constellations were abnormally calm. This was because they knew better than anyone else that the stronger the skill, the higher the skill's consumption and cooldown. Right now, Wang Yu had just used a big move and was naturally at his weakest. Otherwise, why would Wang Yu stand at the entrance without moving? In the eyes of the 12 constellations, Wang Yu was bluffing. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.